All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is the Board of Municipal and Zoning Appeals. The date is November 17th, 2020. I'm going to go over some of the features of WebEx, given this is a virtual hearing. When your case is called, I will make you a panelist and then unmute you. And then if you have video, your camera will turn on as well. You'll be able to make your argument to the board. If you are in support or in opposition of a case and want to testify, you can raise your virtual hand. Somewhere on WebEx, if you hover over your name, you'll see a little hand symbol. And if you raise your hand when that case is called, then I'll know that you want to testify. You can also use the chat feature and just send a message saying that you want to testify. I do ask that you use chat and not the Q&A. For some reason, the Q&A one is a little more fickle. If you're a call-in user, obviously you can't use the chat or raise your virtual hand. So after each case, I go through all of the call-in users. If you are a call-in user, you will hear 2 beeps. That beep means that you have been unmuted. So if you want to testify, just say so. If not, remain silent, and I'll mute you again and move on to the next call-in user. Let me see. I believe that's everything. If you're having any technical difficulties, you can call our office, 410-396-4301. You can also send us an email, and I believe that's it for the WebEx part, so I will pass it off to our chairman. Who was on mute? Sorry.
Yeah, I wasn't quite ready anyway. Okay, thank you. Okay. So as we do with these BMZA hearing matters, we will vote on each case to make a decision at the end of the docket today, unless we indicate, on the record, for some reason we may be deliberating later for a particular matter. In any event, you can call the BMZA office tomorrow morning after 9 a.m. To hear the result of your matter. The number is 410-396-4301. Again, 410-396-4301. You should receive your resolution in the mail, to the extent they're still delivering mail, within 30 days. An issue. We ask that you not do any work until you receive your resolution. And please don't do any work in Baltimore City without pulling the proper permits. There are a few postponements on the docket today. I will read those cases. Some you may already know, but we'll review them. Case number 2020-71, 841 East Chase Street. The appellant is Donnie Ancree. That matter is postponed. Second case being postponed today is 2020-111. It is 2434 through 2462 Greenmount Avenue and 2429 through 2431 Brentwood Avenue. Ms. Carolyn Hecker is the appellant, but that matter will not go forward today. Another postponed case on the docket for today is case number 2020-164, 1534 West Mount Royal Avenue. Daniel Johnson is the appellant. Again, that's 1534 West Mount Royal Avenue, case number 2020-164. And case number 2020-165, 2001 Boone Street, Benjamin Zonas, the appellant. That matter is also postponed today. And we had one other matter that's not postponed, but the case has been withdrawn. That is case number 2020-179, 1330 Cooksey Street and 1332 Cooksey Street. Kimbo Rosado being the appellant. And that matter has been withdrawn. We do have a couple of cases on the consent docket. For those cases, let me just call both of them, and then we'll call them individually, then get the appellant on the line. First matter on the consent docket, 2020-161, 818 North Fulton Avenue, Calvin McCargo. That's to use the premises as 2 dwelling units. And the second case on the consent docket, 2020-178, 714 South Curley Street, Matt Nofel. and that's to construct a 2-story rear addition with rooftop deck. So consider those matters called.
Good morning.
Good afternoon, Mr. McCargo.
I'm sorry. Yes. Good afternoon. Yes.
That's all right. No problem. So this is case number 2020-161, 818 North Fulton Avenue.
Yes.
We have Mr. McCargo. This is a request to use the premises as 2 dwelling units. And I'll ask for any staff reports if we have them.
Yep, we received, 161, yes. We received a letter in support from the Harlem Neighborhood Council Incorporated stating that they're in support of the use as 2 dwelling units. The house is vacant and the block is in need for new rehabs. This will be a plus for our community. We welcome the vision that the owner has, and if approved by zoning, we give our support also.
Thank you. Anything from Mr. French?
Planning Department has no objection to this application. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. McCargo, is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time?
No. Should I?
Well,
Okay.
the board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. So thank you for your presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and my client will as well. Thank you.
Great. Have a great day.
All right. You too.
All right. Moving on to case number 2020-178, 714 South Curley Street. Mr. Nopel, I see you're on the line. This is a request to construct 2-story rear addition with rooftop deck. I'll ask for any staff and/or planning report.
So we received a letter from the Canton Community Association stating, building character has presented our Economic Development Committee with plans for the renovation of this property. A review of these plans indicates they're quite straightforward and do not raise any concerns with our community. We note the property was posted as required. The immediate neighbors have been notified, and we have not received notice of any objections or concerns from any neighbors. The contractor has also agreed to minimize the adverse impact of the project on adjacent neighbors. Consequently, please be advised, Canton Community Association supports the variance application for this proposed project.
And the Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Very well. Mr. Nopel, is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time?
No, there isn't.
Very well. The board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Give me 1 second to take care of one technical issue.
Okay.
Thank you. That was a 7-year-old technical issue. Okay. Gotta love this one. Okay. Moving on to the regular docket. Let me just say, before we get started with the first case, there are several cases on the docket that have opposition. There may be a fair amount of opposition. We would ask that you be mindful of and pay attention to what some of the folks who testified before you are actually saying. To the extent an issue that's been raised in opposition is stated, we really do not need to hear repetitive testimony about that particular issue. So we ask you to be mindful of that. So we can continue to keep the hearing moving along. With that, I'll call the first case on the regular docket. That is case number 2020-125. This is actually a hearing on reconsideration. 2501 through 2525 West Franklin Street and 330 Warwick Avenue. The appellants listed as Carolyn Hecker. I understand Mr. Justin Williams, and we have him here. Thank you for appearing today, Mr. Williams. This is a request to consolidate 2501 through 2525 West Franklin Streets. So on and so on, but I believe we're here on the signage issue, for which you've moved successfully for reconsideration. At least the motion has been granted. We will hear additional arguments with regard to the signage issue. Prior to you starting, Mr. Williams, I just want to give the floor to staff or planning, just to give us an update as to where we are on this matter, and then we'll move forward.
Nothing from staff.
Okay?
Okay, planning basically stands by its previous recommendation, which is it has no objection to the variances that are necessary for approval of a sign. The issue at hand is whether the variances are going to be taken against a standard of signs above ground floor level or signs at ground floor level. This particular building proposed is a one-story building, and therefore it is the planning department's belief that there is no above ground floor level of structure on which signs would be placed. And we understand the applicant does not agree with that position. So that's essentially the matter that's in front of the board today as far as the planning department is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Mr. Williams, again, we've received the papers that have been submitted on behalf of your client, and we'll hear from you now with regard to the subject of the motion for consideration.
Sure, thank you. And Ms. Nadeau, can I share my screen?
You may. 1 second.
And while she's doing that, for the record, Justin Williams from the law firm Rosenberg, Martin Greenberg, on behalf of the applicant. I'm joined online by my colleague Carolyn Hecker and representatives from McDonald's and the development team as well. I'll see if I can share my screen. Okay, can you see the screen, the 2501 West Franklin Street
Yep.
slide?
We can.
Great. So to refresh the board's recollection, you heard our appeal for zoning relief for 2501 West Franklin Street back on August 25th, and you approved the conditional use request to modify the drive-through of the McDonald's and a variance for the freestanding sign proposed for McDonald's and their, I guess, tenant who will share this sort of small shopping center area as well. The only issue was, and this is the site plan that the board approved, the issue was the wall signs on McDonald's that are proposed, and that's what I'll get into a little bit in a minute. You'll see there's 4 signs. They're pretty modest and in keeping with the traditional McDonald's signs you would see around the area for the new design. The McDonald's logo written out is 32.8 square feet, and the M arches are 14 square feet. And so the issue is, as Mr. French laid out, how do we categorize these signs? There's 2 potential ways to do so. There's, in the code, the wall sign, ground floor. If that is the case, then a tenant is only, or I guess any user is allowed 1 ground floor sign with maximum area 25 square feet. And so if you think about that, go back to the McDonald's sign by itself is too large and larger than 25 square feet. The other alternative way to categorize these signs, and the way we ask the board to interpret it, is as a wall sign above ground floor. And that allows you to get an area of signage of 2 square feet per linear foot of building frontage. And while the quantity in the table says 1 per interior lot, the provision down here, I pulled from the code, mentions that you can split into multiple signs. And so that's what we would propose here. The issue is, if it were a ground floor sign, is our read of the code is that the variance cannot be granted to the number of signs, which is what we'd be seeking. We'd be seeking approval for 4 wall signs. But we feel pretty confident that these signs are properly categorized as wall sign above ground floor. And so the question that we ask you to consider is, what is a wall sign above ground floor? The term is not defined in the zoning code. And so for the lawyers on the board, this to me is a pretty straightforward exercise of statutory interpretation, stuff you would go through in the first year of law school. And I pulled a case from the Court of Appeals that goes through it, which says, where definitions are not explicitly provided, as is the case for here, above ground floor, the tribunal, the judiciary, should be determining the intended scope of the term by applying the language's natural and ordinary meaning, by considering the express and implied purpose of the statute, and employing basic principles of common sense to give it the sense of the meanings the words are intended to convey. So here, in this instance, we think all three of those kind of factors for statutory interpretation point to these signs being above ground floor. So the McDonald signs that we propose on the walls are between 14 and 17 feet, 6 inches above the ground on parapet walls that screen building equipment. So here's an example of the McDonald's on Ford Avenue. It's an older design, but you'll see the parapet wall screens equipment, and it's sort of a similar concept that's proposed for this site. And the McDonald's letters, words are on that parapet wall that are above the rooftop. And so the zoning code defines a parapet as the false front or wall above a roof line. So this is sort of natural ordinary meaning. If a sign is above the roof line, you can't also claim that the sign is on the ground floor in the term's ordinary sense. And this shows the signs proposed here for our site, at that 14 to 17 feet above the ground. Another canon of statutory interpretation is that when you take parts from the code, the judiciary, the tribunal is supposed to read them in harmony with each other. And so here, while there is no definition of ground floor or above ground floor, the zoning code does define a story, like a story of a building, as the portion of a building that is included between the surface of any floor and the surface of the floor next above it, or, as the case is here, if there is no floor above it, then the space between the floor and the ceiling next above it. So here, the definition of the zoning code says that the story, first story is here. I've had our architecture team mark on these elevations precisely where the ceiling is in the building. In the dining area and the vestibule for the McDonald's, it's supposed to be 9 feet, 8 inches above the ground. And you'll see the signs are clearly above it. So under the zoning code, these signs are above the first story of the building. So by definition, in the natural use of the term, above ground floor, these are above the first story. So it just cannot be harmonized to say that these signs are then also on the ground floor. Here's the full elevations of the building showing where the ceiling height is. In the dining room, it's 9 feet, 8 inches, and in the kitchen area, it's a little lower. So we think that sort of is the most straightforward way for the board to read it. Again, it's the natural and ordinary meaning, but for completeness, to go through the other provisions of the things to consider if you're interpreting the statute, and the board is not yet satisfied on that. I also ask you that you consider the purpose and intent of the sign regulations, and they're set forth and spelled out in the first subtitle of the sign title of the zoning code. And the ones that are at issue I want to draw your attention to now are providing for the identification and availability of products, goods, or services of businesses within the city of Baltimore. And this is to promote the economic vitality of those businesses and maintaining an attractive city, which has signs and uses that relate to the intents and uses of those districts. So under this planning staff's reading of the code, if they were to say that every sign that's on a one-story building is, quote, on the ground floor, that would mean that every single business, every single tenant in a one-story building would be allowed one sign of 25 square feet. And that, we think, would make it impossible for motorists to identify the products or goods or services. So here's a picture of the Target in Boston Street and Canton Crossing. It's zone C3. You'll see these Target logos here, 3, 4 signs on the building. And if the planning staff's reading were told true, they'd be limited to one sign of 25 square feet. For scale, the normal commercial door size for ADA compliance is about 21 square feet. So you see a little tiny door in the left-hand corner of that Target, like silver facade. That's about 21 square feet. So each of these signs for Target would be in violation of the zoning code under planning department's reading. Here's an example of the C5 district. The same rule applies in the C5 district where they're limited to one sign of 25 square feet and one per street frontage, or two if we're a corner tenant. And you'll see the same thing. You can consider the size of a door compared to the size of the signs. These signs in the downtown district of Baltimore would be allowed to have one sign of 25 square feet. We think this is an improper reading. And this is more important for McDonald's especially, because the changes that McDonald's is taking under its whole, stores across the country are to move away from the distinctive architectural details with the red roof and the kind of white design features on the roof that motorists might be familiar with. And they're moving towards a more modern, sleek design. But that modern, sleek design means that motorists won't be familiar with McDonald's. They'll need a sign to show and to demonstrate and indicate that McDonald's is actually there. If they're limited to just one sign of 25 square feet, and again, remember, this existing McDonald's sign is already 32 square feet. With one sign, the store would be essentially invisible. The other purpose of the code, as a reminder, that I pulled out to draw your attention to, is the applied purpose of the sign regulations is that they should be adjusted towards the uses and intents of those districts. So, for example, the C1 zoning district is intended for commercial uses, but also pedestrian level uses. So it makes sense when you're walking around, if you want to have a C1 Main Street area, you might want to have more signage at the ground floor level. And so in the C1 district, they allow for, instead of a strict 25 square feet, they have it listed as 1.5 square feet of building frontage. While as we know, the C3 district, which the McDonald's is in, is limited to 125 square foot sign. That makes sense here. So, for example, a C1 zoned Burger King has what we think should be the consideration for ground floor signs at ground level for pedestrians to look at. And this meets the code. But under the flawed interpretation of the planning staff, that these signs above, we think the ceiling, above the roof line, if they're ground floor, if we were C1, they'd be allowed a 171 square foot sign based on the width of the building there. So you'd be allowed to have a larger sign area in a C1 zone area than a C3 zoned area. Again, this defies common sense. The signs are above the ground floor. And I guess then I think finally, I note that when the planning staff was undertaking potential revisions to the zoning code, they put in this amendment that was listed in the Planning Commission that in the C3 zone and C4, C5, they wanted to allow the provision to allow people to allow tenants and applicants to split the maximum permitted signage among multiple signs. They note because in the case of shopping centers, there are often more than one building on a lot. But if you think about in your own experiences, any shopping center around the city, most are one-story buildings. And I asked you to think about every tenant in a shopping center, every store, every grocery store, big box store. If they were only permitted to have one 25 square foot sign, it'd make every sign in a shopping center non-conforming. So in conclusion, I think it's basic common sense that on the basis just that the signs will be literally above the roof line and above the ceiling of the store, that these signs specifically should be considered above the ground floor and that they can be permitted by right because they are far under the maximum permitted sign area if there are indeed wall signs above ground floor. I just note that this is a $5.5 million renovation project that McDonald's is undertaking here, and the sign sizes are very important to them, and this is a holdup for them, that because they recognize how important it is to advertise and market themselves to motorists and people passing by. So with that, we'll submit. I don't know if anyone in the I guess development team wants to chime in, or if any of the board members have any questions.
I have a question for you, Mr. Williams. You know the old-fashioned golden arches that are sticking like 50 feet in the air? Do McDonald's restaurants still utilize those tall signs? Is that
we
sort
still
of-
have we're keeping the existing freestanding sign. So I guess in that sense, they're keeping that distinctive logo. So the sign that is existing is along Franklin Street, and it'll be moved a few feet. And I think we got a variance at the August 25th hearing to add an electronic sign or another identification sign for the other tenant in the shopping center.
Does that satisfy the concern about, it's not foot traffic that you're trying to attract or trying to gauge the attention of, but those that could see it from a distance and, because of its elevation? Does that resolve the issue?
Well, not to McDonald's mind. I mean, then there's multiple streets on the intersection of, I believe, Warwick Avenue and Franklin Street. And so, I mean, sort of McDonald's has a practice, and they have the standard design for buildings. And I think they have it down to a science. I don't want to speak, testify on their behalf, but they feel strongly that they need these signs. It's only 4 that they're seeking, but these signs are important for their branding and for their advertising to catch these sort of impulse purchasers who might be driving by.
Okay. Do we have any additional questions from the board or any other commentary?
No.
I have a quick question just for the record. So if you're standing inside the McDonald's, so this red dotted line where it marks the ceiling. So if you're standing inside, that's a ceiling. And then everything above that is just like utility stuff, correct? It's like an attic, basically. Is that what you're saying?
That's fair, yes.
Okay.
And the point of marking the ceiling was that the zoning code has a specific definition of story.
So like no one could stand in that second part.
That's my understanding. I don't want to speak out of turn. That I know there's some level of equipment, maybe HVAC ducts in there, and then there's an actual roof. So yeah, I'm not sure how large the quote attic area is, but there's some size there. I don't think it couldn't possibly be large enough for someone to stand. Maybe it's a crawlable area or height.
Okay. Oh, and I think someone from your team just sent a chat message that said it's plus or minus 4 feet.
Okay.
So you're telling us that if we don't approve this sign package, that McDonald's is not going to finish the project and operate?
I'm not intending to make it as a threat.
You did, though.
Well, no. This is how important this project is, that we were waiting to come back to the board to have this motion for reconsideration before going forward. I think we would reevaluate based on the board's decision today, but we feel strongly, again, that based on just the basic principles of statutory interpretation, that these signs are above the first story. Therefore, they are above ground floor signs.
What do you mean you reevaluate?
Well, if there were denial from the board today, we would reevaluate options, and we would explore how to proceed.
Williams, if the board were to conclude that they come down on the side of the planning department that is not an above-ground floor. Have you made the? Do you believe you've made the case for the variances being approved as variances, as opposed to having the signage as of right?
My understanding of the board, or at least planning department's prior position, was that they would not grant the quantity of sign variances we would need here if we were characterized as a wall sign, quote, ground floor. We'd only be permitted one sign on the wall, 25 square feet, perhaps two if it's construed as a corner tenant. If planning department, and I've argued in the past that this provision here where it says the variance procedure only applies to bulk and yard regulations, does not apply to change in uses, maximum quantity of signs, etc., isn't a prohibition on the board's ability to grant variances to those provisions, but planning staff has taken a different position in the past. If they've taken a new position and a reviewed look and think that the board has the authority, notwithstanding that provision, to grant a variance to allow us to have the 4 signs we seek, then obviously that'd be a result that would allow us to have the signs we're hoping to have, and that'd be acceptable.
Okay.
Again, I mean, I understand the concern about the precedential value here, but it's just it's a statutory interpretation plain issue, and there's other provisions in the code where they are very specific about where a sign should be and if there's a second floor. But here it is just ground floor, and I guess as a practitioner and as a resident of the city, that's one of those things we would, if this was going to be the interpretation going forward, it's one of the things what people would have raised and I would have caught if that were the intent. And I don't think it's fair to assume the city council's intent here based on the plain language in front of us where it says ground floor and above ground floor. And these signs are literally above the ground floor.
Okay. All right. Anything further from the board this time?
No.
No questions.
Okay.
None for me.
All right.
Let me make sure, if anybody on the line wanted to testify in opposition or support of this case, you can raise your virtual hand or use the chat feature. All right, I see no hands. I'm going to go through the call users real quick. Again, if you're a call user, you'll hear 2 beeps. If you want to testify for this case, go ahead and do so. Otherwise, remain silent, and I'll move on to the next call-in user. All right, that's everybody, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Williams, anything you'd like to add at this time?
Nothing further. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your presentation, sir. And we'll take this
Thanks.
up.
Have a good day.
You
You
enjoy
too.
what's your day. All right. That concludes case number 2020-125. Moving on to the next case on the docket. Case number 2020-139, 724 North Carrollton Avenue, William Brothers. The request to use the premises as 4 dwelling units. I'll hear from staff and or planning.
Sorry, give me 1 second.
Sure.
Okay. We received a letter in opposition from the Harlem Park Neighborhood Council. It states the Harlem Park Neighborhood Council is not in support of the use of 724 North Carrollton Avenue as 4 dwelling units. This is a complete block of buildings with no empty spaces other than the house taken down at the corner of Harlem and Carrollton. To put 4 units in this one building would be a hardship on the community. They already have parallel parking on that side of the street. Each one of the units will have at least one car, and parking is already tight. No one has contacted the HPNC for any kind of conversation. And I should note this letter was from this was a postponed case, so this letter is from a couple hearings ago.
Okay. Is that it from staff, or is there any more?
Sorry, yes, that's it from staff.
Okay.
Planning Department comment memo is also from back in September of 2020 when this appeal was originally scheduled to be heard. Planning Department reviewed some of the history of this property, noted that there was once upon a time a certificate of occupancy issued to use the premises as 4 dwelling units back in September of 1979. Apparently the building has since gone vacant, which is part of the reason that this request is in front of the board today. The floor plans that were provided with this original application showed use of the front of the first floor of the property as an office, and the department wishes to note that there is no record of non-residential use of this property. Therefore, under the terms of the neighborhood commercial establishment use category in the zoning code, this office space could not be approved by the board. It is in the Harlem Park 2 urban renewal area, and that urban renewal plan does not prohibit the proposed use of this property. The property cannot meet the parking requirements of the zoning code because the rear of the property borders one of the inner block parks created by the Harlem Park urban renewal plan, and therefore at the moment there is no possibility of providing access to the rear of the yard even if it could be used for parking spaces. The department has no objection to approval of the application to use the property as a multifamily dwelling containing 4 dwelling units. It does recommend disapproval of the principal use of a portion of the property as an office, as there is no record of non-residential use of the property that would qualify it for neighborhood commercial establishment use. The department would have no objection to approval of an accessory office use of the first floor front room of the premises. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
So I don't see the applicant's name, so I am going to assume he's a call-in user. So I'm going to go through the call-in users. If you're Mr. Broadus, please speak up and I will keep you unmuted. Hello? Okay. Okay, no response from any of the call-in users, so I guess we can call this case again, and he actually has the next case as well, so I guess we can call him at the end of the docket.
All right, we can move cases number 139 and 140.
Yeah.
And just remind me to recall those. Okay, we'll pick it up with case number 2020-144, 2628 Hartford Road. Appellant is Natasha Watson. This is a request to use the premises as a community health center or a healthcare clinic, as we know it under the code. I'll hear from staff and planning.
Nothing from staff.
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is, although not technically a mid-block property, it is not a street corner property either. It is a property that measures approximately 14 feet wide by 90 feet deep. It's currently improved with a 2-story attached, possibly abandoned residential building or formerly residential building, measuring approximately 14 feet by 53 feet. It is in the Coldstream Homestead Montebello Urban Renewal Plan area and community. The proposal is for a healthcare clinic, which is a conditional use requiring approval by the board. This particular building, however, is proposed to be used for, according to the application, a wide variety of services, health services and health-related services, and specifically quoting from the application, health and wellness checkups, substance abuse counseling and treatment, HIV and hepatitis C screenings, family counseling, contraceptive management, and family planning services. The application does not state proposed days and hours of operation, nor does it have any estimate of how many persons or families might be present at any one time on the property. The property, being a non-corner property, is on a well-trafficked major thoroughfare in Northeast Baltimore, Harford Road, and cannot provide any place for safe drop-off or pickup of patients at the location. Similarly, on the issue of off-street parking for the staff, there is a requirement that there be 3 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area. Based upon the size of the building, planning estimates that there are approximately 1,500 square feet of floor area in this building, which would require 4 off-street parking spaces. This property can only provide 1 space in the rear yard with access via a 15-foot wide alley leading to Gorsuch Avenue. As this would not meet the required amount, the applicant should consider alternately shared parking arrangements that are described in section 16501B of the zoning code. The other issue, based upon comment from the Community Planning and Revitalization Division of this department, is that this is a relatively small building and the range of uses and the possible number of clientele who might be coming to those uses raises a question of how people are going to wait in order to receive the services they would need, which the division considers possibly would result in congregating on the sidewalk out front of the building while people await their turn to enter the building. For these various reasons, the Department of Planning recommends disapproval of the application because the proposed site of the community health center is not appropriate for the proposed use, given the multiple services. Again, we reiterate what is in the application, the number of persons who would avail themselves of these services, and the absence of safe places for drop-off and pickup of patients and visitors, or an enclosed place for them to await their appointments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. French.
Sorry, I'm really sorry to interrupt, but I just received a letter in opposition. Normally I wouldn't accept them this late, but I know that Mary Pat Clark, it's Councilwoman Clark, and she is on the line as well, but I'm going to read the memo to avoid any technical difficulties just in case. So she writes, "Dear Director Nadeau and members of the board, pardon the haste at which I write to oppose this appeal to establish a community health center at 2628 Harford Road. Bottom line, this property was originally built as a 14-foot wide and 90-foot long row house, eventually with a non-residential ground floor use later vacated. The owner, through its subsidiary, is proposing a variety of uses for which the interior and lot space are woefully inadequate. Appellant describes uses including, and then the uses Martin listed. Obvious problems with this inadequate space are room for only 1 off-street parking space on site, no drop-off provisions, a property too small for adequate waiting room space, heavy and speeding traffic on this length of Harford Road, lack of any floor plan or hours of operation to indicate use of swing spaces. The Coldstream Homestead Montebello Community Corporation, directed by CEO Mark Washington, is working hard to change the face of this length of Harford Road, to recreate commercial establishments to serve the residents themselves and new institutional neighbors such as students and staff of the newly renovated Partnership High School across the street and students of the Morgan State University Development up the hill. We oppose the appeal for all these reasons and appreciate this board's consideration of the too much and too little space it represents."
Okay, thank you for that. Let's go to the applicant at this time. Ms. Watson?
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am, we can. Tell us about your project and specifically with regard to the commentary from planning. And as we've just heard, I don't know if you've heard this information before, from the letter, the content of the letter from Councilwoman Clark. Speak to those issues if you would. included in your
Okay.
presentation. Thank you.
Yes. So, hi, my name is Natasha Watson, and I'm a nurse practitioner, and I do belong actually to the church a few doors down at 2616 Hartford Road. And some of the proposed services that we would like to do with the use of the building, we currently do within the church, but it's not adequate space or privacy or, appropriate to be done in our fellowship hall. So this building, it is owned by our church, and I've requested to rent the building to use for services to continue services that I'm already providing to only better the community. I do understand the issue of space, and that was a concern I had as well when I was first looking at the property, but I wish you could see what we've done on the inside. There's only really 2 exam rooms on the top floor, which we're setting up, and due to COVID in particular, we had only planned to do appointment-based only visits. So our hours of operation, I didn't put up yet because I didn't want to purchase a sign and then not be able to use it. But they're going to be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, normal business hours from 9 to 5 is the plan, and maybe every other Saturday or maybe one Saturday a month from also 9 to 5. And during that time, we would only allow patients, community members to come in if they had an appointment, just for safety reasons, mainly for COVID is what we were thinking. And the services that I plan to offer there are physical exams. There are several schools in the area. I'm hoping to get a pediatrician to do back to school physicals, sports physicals. And I also want to use the space on the main floor for NA and AA meetings, which you've already been in touch with that council, and they're willing to help partner with me to do that. And also I wanted to do career and educational opportunities in this space as well. I'm able to teach different courses like CPR and med tech courses, and I plan to also use the space to offer those services. You ask about parking. We do have a lot in the back where I think 2 cars can fit there at a time. But like I said, we only have 3 rooms, so it wouldn't be that many folks in the building at one time. And there is off-street parking as well. Let's see. Anything else?
2614, they have a big lot.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
2614. Oh, he's one of our church trustees. He's who? Yeah.
Your name, sir?
His name. Do you need his name?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, Victor Pender. He reminded me that 2614 has a large lot that, if required, I could use that for parking for my patients or whoever's coming in for services. We're off the main, Hartford Road. The bus line is right there. So I'm assuming also a lot of my constituents will use public transportation, and I'm hoping to service those that are in the area. So some may be able to walk to my practice, take the bus, and if they are parking, there will, again, only be a few people in the building at a time because of COVID, mainly. And also now that I hear the concern of Mary Pat Clark, we would only allow a certain amount of people in the building at a time. There's only 3 rooms that we can use. So it would not be a large amount of traffic ever at one period of time. It would be me, a medical assistant, and it would be the patient, maybe a family member. And with counseling, I may have, no more than 2 or 3 people along with myself.
The gentleman mentioned, Mr. Pender mentioned 2614. Is that the church address? What address is 2614?
It's an extension of the church.
I don't know if you can hear him. It's an extension of 2616 Hartford Road, which we own as a church. It's an extension of the church building.
Okay. But the church has no. Will your church be performing any of the services, or is this individual business that you're?
It's just me.
Okay.
It's a business that I'm running.
Right, and you also mentioned you're performing some of the services at the church now, but you have a space issue. What are the services that you're currently performing, which caused you to seek additional location?
Well, the room I'm in now, it's a multi-purpose room. We eat here and we congregate here. Counseling can happen here, but what I currently do is the blood pressure screenings. When we had or have had health fairs, we would use this room and just close the door here. This is the room in our church. It's a very small room. We renovated that building so it can be used for a purpose with adequate space and privacy. But health screenings have been done in here. So we've done HIV screening, diabetes testing, and the blood pressure screening, and those things we've done. But of course, we'd only have one person at a time and shut the door for privacy. But it's not very professional, I should say, or adequate for that kind of thing.
Okay. Do you currently hold AA or NA meetings at the church in that room?
No, sir. We wouldn't be permitted to do that now because of COVID. We'd need a large open space. The building I'm applying for, 2628, the rooms are very large. I don't have the number. So we would have adequate space to spread out.
Did you provide to in connection with your application any photos of the building as it exists inside, how it's laid out?
Photos, no, but it's beautiful. You're welcome to come see it. I didn't know that you wanted photos.
Well, it kind of helps us assess what it is, particularly given planning's report of how the building is to be used, what it looks like, the sort of common sense that we can make from what you would be doing and how that would work.
I don't know if you can see this. So right now, I don't know if you can appreciate this. The floors are absolutely beautiful. The wall's painted. There's a fan. So I have things in storage that I will not move in until I get approval because, I just didn't want to go through all of that. But in this room will fit an exam. Oh, what was that? Oh, sorry. Any other? Can I show? Here's another photo. This is the entrance. Oh, here's the hallway. Yeah, the whole building. Oh, he said he has the whole building in here, actually. Let's see. Looks like this is before. So right now there is a table in there I have set up. I move like really heavy things. Like I have a table set up right in the front, to welcome our visitors that come in. And there's one exam table in there now, and there is 2 tables and a chair. That's all that's there. The other medical equipment, this is a bathroom. I don't know if you care about that.
Yeah, I appreciate the effort. It's a little difficult to sort of assess, the layout. On the diagram, the sketches that are attached to your, or at least the packet that we have, it's a very faint, and I'm not really able to see the dimensions of the spaces. But let me ask you, do you plan on having a reception area?
Yep, actually that part is set up. That's the only thing I set up because it's right on the main floor, and I found a great hardwood table to go in there.
Okay. Tell me tell us, given COVID restrictions, and we don't know when those will be lifted, but the hope is that they will be lifted, and then you'd be free to do what it is you intend to do.
Yes.
Exactly what services you're intending to provide. You mentioned some things that you're doing at the church. What is it you're going to be doing in this building?
Okay. So you mentioned COVID, so let me explain. So when you walk in, on the right-hand side there's a desk and a chair. We're going to get a computer set up there. The receptionist, because of COVID, we've already discussed it. We would only allow one, there's 2 rooms upstairs. We won't allow 2 patients in at a time. And if you look at how we do have some chairs set up already, but they're 6 feet apart. And only enough really for about 4 persons right now. So when they come in, they'll check in at the front desk, and upstairs, like I said, there's 2 exam rooms. I'm a nurse practitioner. This is going to be me working there, not sourcing it out to anyone else. I plan to use both rooms to do healthcare screenings. So for pediatrics, I can do annual physicals, I can do sports physicals, certified to do DOT physicals, which are the Department of Transportation physicals, and I can do counseling. If I'm not there on a day, for example, I told you my schedule will be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm hoping on Tuesday and Thursday to still be able to use my space. And I've already talked to the Council for Alcohol and Narcotics Anonymous. They can use that space also because they can only do a limited amount of folks now due to COVID. Counseling can be there as well. I will be using it for healthcare services. GYN care for females. I can do contraceptive management, minor procedures I'm certified to do. And there's 2 rooms I'll be using upstairs to do that. And that will be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And my schedule will probably be 1 Saturday a month. And that's what will be done in that building.
How many clients do you expect to see per day?
How many clients do I expect to see?
Mm-hmm.
In a day, well, typically we do 30-minute visits. I worked this morning from 8 to 12, and I saw 6 patients. So it'll be about the same, 30-minute visits per patient. And due to COVID especially, most doctors' offices and clinics don't even allow family members in. So it would just be the patient and maybe a loved one if they're, not in the exam room, but they could wait in the lobby. And right now we have it set up where the seats are spaced apart. So to answer your question, 30-minute visits, I work 8 hours.
I have a question for you, Ms. Watson.
Yes.
The buildings that are between your church building and your building, does the church own all of those buildings along that block?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And also the liquor store as well in the corner.
So the church owns the corner building, your building, and then those other 3, and then the church. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Just a quick question. Is the church holding services now? Presently?
We are, but only at, is it 25%? We are at 25%. And what we do is we require families to sit together. And those that are not related or in the same household, they know they have to spread out. And we've been compliant with that. Yes, we are. It's only 1 day a week. So we typically would hold service Sunday all day, Wednesday and Friday for Bible studies. We're now only doing Sunday morning services or Sunday afternoon. We're here from about 10 to about 10 to 1 because of COVID.
Okay. Any more questions from the board?
Have you met with Homestead, Montebello?
Met with who? No. No, sir.
Association?
You didn't meet with the Community Association?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Where do you expect to draw your patients? From where do you expect to draw your patients? The local community?
The Cold Street, Montebello, Harford Road community. And I plan to give great patient care, so I imagine that they may tell others that don't live on Harford Road or in the area. But once again, we will only be able to see patients during our scheduled hours, and especially because of COVID, it will be a limited amount of traffic at one time because of the restrictions on how many persons can be in one building in an enclosed space. But the building was abandoned. My trustee wanted made me aware about 20 years, so most of my life, that he said more than my life, that building has not been in use and has been an eyesore in the community. We spent a great deal of money fixing it up for proposed use. I wasn't aware of this whole process of what goes on, but we really don't want that building to be vacant because it is beautiful inside, and we spent a great deal of time fixing it up, partly tailored to the use that I intend for it to be for. But it's been many years, decades not used, and now it will benefit the community. I hope that you could see the possible benefit it could offer services to many in the area.
Once we're no longer in COVID, do you expect to be open more than just Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and one Saturday per month?
Do I expect to be open more than that?
After, like, once we're out of COVID, do you expect to be open, like, 6 days a week or 5 days a week, or are you going to stick to the Monday, Wednesday, Friday?
I'm hoping to. Oh, there's a little bit of a lag. Oh, there's a little bit of a delay.
We can hear you.
Yes, ma'am. I hope in the upcoming. Yeah. Okay. So I currently have a full-time nurse practitioner role, and once COVID is gone, once restrictions are lifted, I do hope to work in that building Monday through Friday, and hopefully not Saturdays actually, but Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 is my long-term goal use for the building. I want to put it to use. It's been just sitting there. So yes, I do plan. My long-term goal is to be there every day, I hope. Not Sunday, Monday through Friday, maybe Saturdays, but my goal is to offer healthcare services throughout the week.
So if anybody who's on the line wants to testify in support or opposition, please raise your virtual hand or use the chat feature to let me know. In the meantime, I'm going to go through the callers. Again, if you're a call-in user, you're going to hear 2 beeps, which means you're unmuted. If you don't wish to testify, just stay silent and I'll move on to the next one.
My hand is up.
That's something to speak to us.
I think that's one of your background noises.
Did you want to add anything? No. Okay.
So I didn't hear anything from the call-in users. I do see someone who wants to testify in support. Mr. Vittorio, you are unmuted.
I just wanted to say I think the project sounds very beneficial for the neighborhood. It sounds quite modest in terms of traffic, and it sounds like they've already done a lot of work. That shouldn't be the only criteria, of course, but it sounds like a good project to me.
Mr. DeVittorio, do you live in the neighborhood?
I do not actually. I'm here for another docket, but I'm watching, so I'm sorry if I shouldn't have voted. Then you can retire my vote. But
okay. Just want to make it clear for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have one more person. Give me 1 second. All right, you are unmuted. I believe it's Mark Washington from the Neighborhood Association.
Yeah. Hi. Can I be heard?
Yeah, we can hear you, Mr. Washington. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Hi. Mark Washington, Executive Director of Coldstream Homestead Montebello Community Corporation. We, of course, do not support this use. We've been inundated recently with these types of establishments. I understand that it's profitable now to operate these establishments, but last count by planning department, we have at least 12 of these same types of facilities in the area that are completely and totally inconsistent with the community's development objectives. The fact that there is so little regard for what we're trying to do as a community is telling. We feel as though we are falling prey to establishments that want to maintain the current condition of the community rather than to see and acknowledge that across the street from where this facility wants to go, the community fought extremely hard to get $57 million put into the construction of a new school. We're starting demolition a block down on Harford Road, and as Mary Pat stated quite clearly in her letter, we are working with Morgan University to expand their campus to that area and create a revitalized commercial district along Harford Road. Harford Road has fallen victim to difficult decisions that have been made in the past that still hinder our ability to transform this community. We are on the verge of, right adjacent to Harford Road, constructing new single family and duplex homes for $250,000. But yet the pushback from institutions wanting to come in to offer treatment, counseling, bringing in individuals from outside of the neighborhood, even on this call, having individuals that aren't even familiar with the community's development objectives weighing in and saying they support this, shows that there is a real lack of understanding of what we're trying to do. Trying to put $250,000 housing, which has been approved and is in a demolition phase by the city of Baltimore, to see all of that work that the community has put in to be undermined doesn't take into consideration what impact these types of uses that are just popping up all over the community has in halting our forward progress. So no, we cannot support it because it's not supportive of what the community wants to do to transform the neighborhood.
Mr. Washington, is there, in your view, and particularly in your role, a need for additional healthcare services in the community?
Well, let me say this to you quite clearly. When we started planning for the community, that was one of the first things we addressed, which is the reason why Coldstream Homestead Montebello has not one, but two healthcare facilities, Total Healthcare and Shepherd's Clinic. Each offer low cost, no cost, or healthcare services to individuals who are suffering from addiction or are uninsured or underinsured. In addition to that, Shepherd's Clinic even offers a wellness clinic that offers yoga and other holistic approaches. So that was part of our plan. And I am taken aback by the fact that no one comes to us to say, how can we work to cooperate and further the plan that the community has for creating market rate housing, stable neighborhoods, new schools along Harford Road, as I said, right across the street, $57 million into the new Reach facility. We're in the planning phases right now for City College High School, and construction has already started on Montebello on Harford Road. And as we're making these investments and we're taking on these challenges to improve the community, to see individuals that don't even lend themselves to trying to be a part of what the community's efforts are to uplift it is a little unsettling to me.
Thank you, sir. I want to be sure we've gotten all of your concerns, Mr. Washington. Does that pretty much sum it up?
Yes, I guess in a nutshell, it is something that is already being provided in the community, but equally as important, it is not consistency with the community's development objectives. It does not speak to supporting what we as a community as a whole want to see, or even homeowners want to see.
All right, thank you, sir.
There's one more call-in user. Give me 1 second. You're gonna hear 2 beeps.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, good. It's Maritat Clark. Thank you very much, Madam Director, for reading my letter. And I've been listening to the hearing. Thank you so much for taking the time to understand and to understand the plan that this community is developing, and very successfully so, for this corridor. We do not need another program. Well, let me stick to the size. This location is just going to prove inadequate to the long list of activities described already. And although they sound it sounds as if they all fit in, we in the community have not had any chance to sit down and discuss this with the church and to talk about really what, put in writing some of the hours and days and conditions that they've said today, but we have never seen or heard before. And we know how things get away from people. And all of a sudden, you got a lot of people, and all of a sudden, they're standing outside because they can't get in. We've been through this before, and we know how it happens under the best of intentions. This is not what we want in this corridor. Perhaps a coffee shop, perhaps something like that that begins to welcome the community, as well as so many new institutional neighbors, that says, come on across this street. We're developing commercial enterprises that will serve your purposes when you come to work here or to go to school here. So that's all. I think that Mark said it very, very well, and very truthfully what we've already accomplished, and why we need small places to do small things, not ones that are going to get out of control and overcrowd and put people standing on the street 6 feet apart. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Clark. Commentary. Have any additional callers we have to check? You're muted,
Hello?
Ms. Nadeau.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm finished.
Hello?
Oh, that's Councilwoman Clark again.
Sorry, I'm gonna mute Councilman Clark, and then Ms. Carr, you are unmuted.
Hi, I've been trying to raise my hand for the longest time. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I am driving, so if it's too noisy, just please interrupt me. I will say that I am Shanita Carr, and I am a member of the Redeemed Church for over, 49 years. And we just recently lost our beloved bishop, our apostle, who just passed away like a month ago. And this transition has been difficult for our assembly. However, we know that God has all things under control. And this center, we believe that is essential for the community. I understand what Ms. Clark stated, and I understand what Mr. Washington stated. And I really would pray that we all can kind of work together in the community, because at the end of the day, it's one common goal that we should all have for the community. And our pastor has always wanted RCC, which is reaching communities collectively, to be a whole logistic, oneness and dealing with the health, dealing with the mind, dealing with the spirit realm. We have a Fishers of Men program that we do every Sunday morning. Mainly before the COVID, we fed over 80 individuals that would come to eat hot food. I mean, grits, bacon, sausages, you name it, we gave it to them. And that was because of our apostle's vision. He wanted to do things for the community, which he's done for over 50 years in that same church, in that same community. And as you've heard, we own pretty much the entire block. So this would be nothing new for us. Because of the COVID, we, as Ms. Watson has already stated, we will be prepared to make sure that no one is standing outside because we're going to be doing appointments only. And some of the things that we are, that she's going to offer, we already doing it in our local assembly as now. So we wanted to expand that and possibly move into the 2628 location. However, we understand the concerns. We understand you got total health care and you got Shepherd and all those other facilities, but we're offering a lot more than most of these centers are offering, free as well as low, for those who cannot really afford health insurance. I just want to also state that, again, this is the vision of our leader, and we've been in this community for a long time. And a lot of people in that community know who we are, know who our Apostle Clarence Weston was. And, I just pray that the decisions would be made in that favor and in that honor of him. I think that's it for me.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Do we have any additional questions from the board before we turn it back over to Ms. Watson?
No.
A word?
None for me.
Okay.
Nothing from me.
All right, Ms. Watson, we'll hear from you finally. Anything else you'd like to tell us in light of the opposition heard?
The trustee of our church, who oversees the renovations of our buildings, would he be allowed to say something?
Sure.
No. Well, parking. Is parking really?
No, as Natasha had mentioned about the parking conditions, we have the building 2614, which is a part of the church. It also has a reasonable sized lot that would accommodate, I would think, at least 4 more parking spaces. And, by this being an extension or a portion of the church that we want to be able to support, be supportive in any way that we can to make this happen.
I have questions about Mr. Washington mentioned Morgan and having plans to use, I guess, this area. Are the plans to use it more for residential or do you know what that would be? Because I feel like what I will be offering would fit perfectly with that. If there's students using student housing in the area or offices, I can do urgent care things, like if someone has a healthcare need that's a member of a student of Morgan or works for Morgan, or even the schools in the area, I'm right there and available to offer those services. And I also wanted to know also, is there any way I could maybe put into writing conditions that would appease the neighborhood association? I do understand the parking issue. If we were to get really busy and didn't have any COVID restrictions and all of my patients drove, I guess it could be an issue as far as where to park, but we don't have any problems on Sundays when we have large congregations, and when we have funerals and weddings. It's more of a hassle for those coming to park far, but they make it do. I've never heard of complaints from the neighbors or the residents with them not being able to park in their usual parking spots. And I speak to many of these neighbors. We do a food drive and different drives, and everyone that stopped by on foot, which I'm assuming they probably live in the area, they've all been very excited for us now using the building, and they seem to welcome it. Even the lady who lives right next door, she's always asking when will you open? I don't know where she goes. If she goes to Total Healthcare, great, but she lives right next door, and she hasn't voiced any concerns, and I haven't heard a letter read from her. Everyone that I've spoken to, I haven't spoken to Mr. Washington. I don't know who he is, but everyone that I've spoken to, they're very happy for us, and they're excited for what we may offer, and they've said that they would be a part of it once I open the doors.
Do you think it would be helpful, Ms. Watson, you think it would be helpful to you to sit down and talk with the community so that you can find out what is at issue and what their plan is and how your services may fit? Typically,
yes, and maybe they can even. Yes, I would love to do that. Yeah, I would love to do that.
Of course, we're at the point where you're seeking a decision here in light of this opposition that perhaps you were unaware of. In circumstances where folks are seeking to put new businesses in communities, one of the things that typically happens, and frankly that we would recommend, is that you do meet with community associations and community leaders, even council people, so that they can one, either express their support or express to you what it is that the neighborhood or community appears to be in need of, and how you all can work together, which you mentioned also is your goal. One of the things I guess we're able to suggest is if you would like to postpone a decision on this matter so you can have the opportunity to meet with the community and perhaps work out any differences or come to some understanding prior to having a decision reached on this matter. Ms. Nadeau, is that something we can consider?
Yep. So what we do is, since we already started the hearing, it would be noted as being held rather than postponed. And what you do is, for the applicant, you just call or email our office after you've had that meeting, and we put it back on the docket.
Okay. So would it be Mr. Washington? I don't know if Mayor Pat Clark is on there, but I definitely can't be a coffee shop. I'm a healthcare provider, so it will be something health related if I'm going to rent the space from the church.
Right. So,
so that's the best that I can do.
Right. So the board wouldn't be involved in those talks, but basically we'll say we're holding the decision, and then you guys can get in touch with each other and meet with each other and do all of that, and then come back to the board with whether you reach an agreement or not, because regardless, the board has to eventually make a decision. But yeah, it just gives you time to meet with them in case you can work out some of the issues the community has.
Do you know Mr. Washington's contact info?
If you email me after, I can help you guys facilitate that. But
sure.
I'd also like to suggest you sit down with Councilperson Clark. Hello?
And that's the experience of, I guess, members of the board, certainly Mr. Cunningham, and folks who are new to at least establishing business in communities. It does appear to be helpful to both the community and to the business entrepreneur to have that discussion with the council person in that district to, again, get the full knowledge and panoply of what's happening, how you can all work together.
Okay.
So if it's fine with you, we will hold a decision or defer deliberations on this matter pending your opportunity to have some discussions with the community stakeholders. And we would look to have this matter reset probably for deliberations, if not additional hearing at a later date. that okay? Are you agreeable to that? You're the applicant, so I have to ask.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, very well. So we'll consider this matter held, and we'll deal with the docketing of it in the future, pending the discussions and communications between the interested parties. And thank you, Ms. Watson, and you, Mr. Pinder, for your presentation. And we look forward to seeing you again.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, James, let me ask, is anyone else getting bounced out of the meeting?
I'm sorry, say that again, Bill?
Is anyone else getting disconnected from the meeting?
No, my video's going out, and I hear some interference at times, but otherwise, I'm still
I've
on.
been bounced out 3 times. It says it's trying to reconnect, but it doesn't.
Oh, sorry.
I haven't been bounced out.
Well, that's because you're a good person.
Well, we think you're a good person too, Bill.
Exactly.
Don't take it personally. All right. Okay, so we're going to move on in the docket. Let's see, we're just on Harford Road. Now we will move to case number 2020-172, 1810 McCullough Street, Asibel Oskin. This is, a request to use the premises as 7 dwelling units. I'll hear from staff and planning.
Okay, I have a few letters. Hold on. Okay. All right, I have about 5 letters in opposition. Okay, so the first one is from a resident on Mosher Street that says, while the homes in West Baltimore do need more inhabitants, the type of densification that results from subdivision, such as that proposed here, do more harm than good. On the positive side, 1 more house will be lawfully occupied, but on the negative side, the new occupants will bring with them a substantial addition to need for public services, such as waste disposal, education, and policing, while the wealth to support local businesses and tax revenues for said services that they will bring are questionable. The opportunity for developers to profit from home renovation does not require extreme subdivision. Properties are cheap to purchase and rental prices are nonetheless sustained. If the objective is to resell, many homes in these neighborhoods are still in a condition which they can be flipped for substantial profit. While 2 units might be acceptable, 1 unit rented to help the homeowner meet their cost, and 7 is really too many. Druid Heights Community Development Corporation writes, we're writing on behalf of the community to express their opposition. This appeal does not match the desires of the residents to promote additional homeownership while decreasing density in an already congested neighborhood. This block has less than 5 single-family homes and as many as 35 multifamily dwellings. The same condition is in the 1900 block of McCullough Street, where more than 125 families reside. As a result, this part of the community requires additional maintenance and trash removal and produces high criminal activities. And then a letter from the Druid Heights Community Development Corporation Board of Directors writes that their board is in opposition to this appeal. With only 29% home ownership, the Druid Heights community is overwhelmed with absentee landlords and rental housing. The community is working hard with various city agencies to increase its home ownership base by creating more opportunities for first-time homeowners, improving environmental conditions, reducing density by creating more open space, recruiting businesses along the commercial corridors to provide goods and services, and reducing the number of rental units to stabilize a strongly defended culturally historic community. This zoning appeal is obviously from people that know nothing about the community or its long-term community development plans and are not interested in what's best for its residents. The next letter states, I disapprove of the zoning request. This neighborhood and adjacent communities do not need another multi-dwelling property. Density has been an issue in Druid Heights and the adjacent communities of Reservoir Hill and Madison Park for over 40 years. As it is, the city has done little to keep up with sanitation, health, or public safety. We work very hard to maintain the neighborhood and collaborated with the surrounding communities to make sure we work in unison. It does not assist our efforts as citizens to have the zoning commission make decisions contrary to efforts of the community. And then lastly, I am voicing my opposition to this request. Using the dwelling for 7 units with very few off-street parking spaces and very little need for such density in the community is abhorrent. I strongly ask the committee to oppose this request. Additionally, this property failed to register to VBN in 2016 and has a spotty inspection record.
Who was the second letter from?
The second letter was also the Druid Heights Community Development Corporation. We got one letter from their executive director and then another letter from the chair of their executive committee.
Thank you.
Planning Department reviewed this application. The application states it would like to use the property as a multifamily dwelling containing 7 efficiency dwelling units. The department notes that back in 2009, the board approved this property for use as 7 efficiency units. And it was based upon granting a variance of lot area. At that time, the zoning code contained a lot area standard for efficiency dwelling units of 500 square feet of lot area each. And on that basis, the board granted a 19% lot area variance to approve that appeal. The current zoning code, which became effective June of 2017, considers efficiency units as equivalent to other dwelling units for purposes of determining allowable residential density. This was adopted by the mayor and city council in recognition of the fact that the only practical distinction between an efficiency dwelling unit and a 1-bedroom dwelling unit is a bedroom door. The current owner of the property bought this property in 2015 and apparently did not seize the chance to have this application filed before 2017 and move ahead with his plan. That said, the current R8 zoning requirement is 750 square feet of lot area per dwelling unit. For 7 dwelling units, they require 4,875 square feet of lot area. This lot encloses 2,640 square feet and therefore does not meet the requirement. And a lot area variance of 46% would be required in order to approve this application. The department is recommending disapproval of the application because the amount of variance requested and the amount of lot area variance needed for approval is excessive in relation to the amount required by the zoning code. Thank you.
Martin, what year was that approved?
2009.
No,
And there was an extension granted to that owner, different from the current owner, in 2010. And it lapsed without any action apparently being taken to go ahead with converting the property at that time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. I see Mr. Oskin is online. Hello? Hello, Oskin, are you there?
They are unmuted, so. Hold on, let me see if I can. Mute, unmute. Hello? Okay, it does not appear that they can hear us.
Well, I don't know what to do about that. We want to.
I guess we can come back to it. Okay.
All right, I'll tell you what, we'll relegate that one to the rear again, like the others, and come back to. Let's call the case, the next case on the docket, 2020-175, 3406 Alto Road. Ezra Hills, the applicant, and this is a request to use the premises as 2 dwelling units. I'll hear from staff.
Nothing from staff.
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that there is evidence provided attached to the application indicating this property was transferred in 1955 to an individual and to a husband and wife, each with a 1/2 interest in the real property. And therefore, basically, this documents its use as 2 dwelling units. The statement attached to the application notes the property is currently rented to 2 tenants and requests approval to continue this multifamily dwelling use. The department therefore has no objection to this application if non-conforming use of the property as a multifamily dwelling unit containing 2 dwelling units has not been discontinued or abandoned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Ezra Hill, can you hear us?
Oh, sorry, they're muted. Hold on.
Okay.
That was me. Okay. Now I'm muted.
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Okay, we're getting a lot of feedback. Maybe turn down, I don't know what.
Hey, we have.
Sorry. Hold on. So you're logged in twice. I'm going to mute one of them.
Okay.
Okay. I'm muting you.
We have
Okay.
two
There we go.
machines going.
All right, can you hear us, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for hanging in there, and tell us about your project to use the premises as 2 dwelling units.
Yes, we'd like to thank you for a favorable decision, as this has been our family dwelling since 1955. However, the property has been listed and is under contract of sale. Our buyer has always intended to live on the 2nd floor and rent out the 1st to supplement her mortgage. On the home inspection, the inspector caught the zoning issue. So we really have been ready to close since October, and pending hopefully a favorable decision that the buyer will move forward and close. And we do have a tentative closing date of November 23rd. And go ahead and buy the house, and she loves it, live on the 2nd floor and rent out the 1st. That's what we're asking.
Okay. Well, we have had a hopeful report from planning in terms of the background and the continued use of this property as 2 dwelling units for a significant period of time. Do we have any questions from the board?
No.
No.
None from me.
Sorry, let me just make sure there's no one on the line in opposition or in support. If you are listening in or in opposition or support, raise your virtual hand. In the meantime, I'm going to go through the call-in users. We're down to only 3 of them now. So if you're a call-in user, you'll hear 2 beeps, which means you're unmuted. If you want to testify, go ahead. Okay, that's everyone.
Okay. Well, I think we've heard pretty much all we need to hear, Mr. Hill, between you and planning. Is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time, sir?
No, sir.
All right, very well. Well, thank you for your presentation, and we'll address this at the end of the docket when we deliberate on this matter. Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. Does that mean that we would be receiving a decision later today or tomorrow? Is that?
We will go through the docket, and for those matters for which we will be deliberating, we will have a decision at the end of our deliberations, which I believe you're in a position to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
So you will hear today.
Thank you very much.
All right, sir. Thank you. All right. We're going to move on to the matter. Case number 2020-176, 317 South Madeira Street. The applicant is Eden No. And this is a request to construct a 2-story rear addition We'll hear from staff and their plans.
So we have a few letters in opposition for this case. I believe 3 of them. So the first one says, I have many concerns about 317's plan to construct a 2-story rear addition, largely due to the manner in which they proceeded with construction thus far. They began rehab over a month ago. I have yet to see a contractor or anyone else on the grounds. As they work, clouds of dust come from the windows and they leave piles of dust on the stairs, sidewalk, and street. For this reason, on days they work and sometimes the following days, I do not let my kids play outside. Living in a row home in the city means not having a yard. Our street is our yard. It's where the kids play. We have block parties. We stoop and socialize. We need to feel safe in our own yards, and 317 has taken this from us. I don't feel safe opening my windows on days they're doing construction. I would love for this property to be renovated. It would be lovely to have a block with no abandoned homes and new neighbors to welcome into our family. But as much as I want this, even more I want the work to be done safely and up to code. The next letter states, these are all from members of the community, by the way. As a public elementary school educator currently teaching from home, I'm concerned with the level of noise from this project. The homeowners have refused to communicate their plans with the neighboring homes, making work from home very difficult. Over the sounds of incredibly loud demolition work, I also have to listen to the homeowner yell at laborers and blare music. They've also blocked the street with their van on multiple occasions. Additionally, I'm concerned about the addition to the house. There are no other homes on our block that extend to the end of the lot on both stories. Extending the second floor will block my second-story window, hindering my ability to enjoy my home and decreasing my home value. If they continue to do construction without a licensed professional, I'm worried about potential damage to my home. I would approve this project if only the first floor was extended, but not the second floor. Additionally, I would need the homeowners to hire a licensed contractor and communicate their plans with residents of the neighboring homes. And then the last one states, while I believe that we are all in agreement that this property is in desperate need of a rehab, as a community, we have our concerns in regards to upcoming renovations. It is my understanding that several demolition and construction endeavors occurred without proper permits. Neighbors have attempted to discuss these concerns with the owners on numerous occasions, largely out of concern for the structural integrity of the neighboring homes, but have not been successful. Several children are also residents on this block and spend most of their afternoons playing outside, and with illegal construction occurring, many of us are concerned for their overall safety, specifically with the potential dangers of lead paint.
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
I'm finding the applicant. Give me 1 second. Okay. All right, Eno, you are unmuted.
Hello. Thank you so much. I understand the neighbors' concerns regarding the dust and the noise level. We actually were unaware that there was music coming out of the house, though, because every time we've worked on the house, we've tried to minimize the sound level. But obviously, we do have the proper permits, including the demolition of the current existing 2-story, 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. So there is obviously some noise level coming from taking out the drywall and just the interior conditions right now. But the house definitely is in desperate need of renovation. It's over 100 years old. I'm not even sure when the last time the house has been renovated. It's very small, and our neighbors on both the left and right side, which is 315 South Madera and 313 South Madera, they also have second-story additions. And the one, I believe, on the left, 315, their addition actually extends all the way into the alley. And so I'm not exactly sure why some of the neighbors think that the other homes are not extended all the way, because I have pictures that I'm going to try to show you guys that show that there's other homes on the block that are actually that are not only 2 stories, but they also have a rooftop deck which is much higher in height than our current house. Right now, the house is 2 stories, but the second story is like a little bit shorter than even just the current existing building. So it just is not using the space very well. And we need to extend all the way just so that we can have enough space for a family to live there because you can't have a family if there's only 1 bedroom and 1 bath, and the kitchen is extremely small. It's like an efficiency kitchen, so that's why we would like to extend um, into the alley so that we could have a larger kitchen and we can have a bigger bathroom and add another bedroom into the second floor. Um, and I'm positive that this home will not block any of the other homes because all the homes on this block are the same story, and there are no homes behind us. So there's the alleyway, and then the homes behind us, it's their backyard, and none of the homes are close enough that we will be blocking their light or any visual um, you know visuals. But let me try to see if I can show you some pictures so you guys can see kind of like the layout. This is a small street. It's on Madeira, and there's like all the homes there are very small, and a lot of these homes do need renovation because, like I said, it's very difficult for people with families to live in a home where it's like over 100 years old and it's very, very small, and there's not enough living space. But I understand the neighbors' concern also about like contractors, but we actually have the proper permits pulled with um, it was an owner's permit, and we also have proper contractors who are supervising all of this. So I don't think that they know the full story because obviously they're not like inside the house seeing what we're doing. So I think they're just concerned maybe because we haven't talked to them. So that's definitely something that I will take steps to address because that's not something that I realized that like it was the proper protocol. So I didn't like go around the neighbors like knocking on each person's door telling them, this is what we're going to do, but maybe I could just like write a letter and send it to them because obviously with COVID, I'm not trying to like talk one-on-one with all my neighbors there. Um, but if that is something that they feel that I need to work on, then that's definitely that's not an issue for us. That I could keep them updated. I guess like whatever it is that their concerns or their questions are, or what our construction schedule would be, especially if they have kids out, then I would like to notify the parents that we're going to be there from the hours of so and so if that is something that they're interested in, or I can give them my personal contact info if they ever wanted to talk to me. But let me try to see if I could add the pictures so you guys can kind of see how the layout of the street is and the layout of the back of the house is. Okay.
All right, so usually the way it works, depends how you want to do it. I can make you a presenter and you can share your screen. Or let me see. Are you calling in from your phone? I'm not sure it'll work. So
I am.
1 second.
I am calling in from my phone, actually.
Okay, I'm going to make you a presenter.
Okay.
Ms. No, while you're doing that,
Sure.
can you tell us if the neighbors on either side of your property have raised any issue with the one, if they know what it is you're intending to do, and if they've raised any objections?
They've never raised objections to me, like personally and one-on-one. But I think a lot of people there, they just don't know like that we have the proper permits because like people, it's on the window, but they don't really know. So I think they just think that because we're there and we're also working with the contractor, that they just think that it's like we're doing something illegally. You know what I mean? So I've never had a neighbor come up to me like asking me like what's going on because like I don't think there's anybody in that neighborhood who would object to like the house being renovated itself, because, like I said, the house is like over 100 years old. It needs, like, better insulation. It needs a better layout, because it's like it has like about 400 square feet of living space, and it's a very small house, and the backyard has just enough space that it could kind of like make the house into a proper, maybe like 1,000 square feet house, which is like, a livable condition. But I've never had any neighbor come up to me directly to raise any issues. I've never actually had any neighbor like even tell me that they think that it's like a danger to their kids or anything, because like the home, there's no way that kids could be like close to the area. And yes, there is dust, but I don't know how anybody who's renovating a house can minimize that, because like, there is some level of dust when you are taking out some of the old 100-year-old like ceiling
Okay.
and drywall and drop ceiling and things like that. Yeah.
All right. So it looks like your photo is up, or at least one photo.
Yeah, so the brown house on the right is mine. The house on the left is the red house, and the red house actually is a 2-story as well, and it's extended all the way into the backyard. And I'm gonna show you a picture of the backyard. Well, I'm gonna show you another picture. Wait, can you see? I want to show you another picture of the can you show this? Of the block itself, the Madeira block. It is. Oh, you guys can see it, right? So you can see how like all the homes are basically either 2-story or 3-story, and it's like a smaller street. And this is like our interior layout. It would just give us enough space. So right now this is the back of the house, and the back of the house is the first floor and the second story don't meet, basically. So the second story, like right now, you could just open the door and it goes onto this like kind of awkward above the first floor roof. So it's like it's very awkward. I don't even feel like it was a proper use of space or anything like that, because it's like it's just structurally awkward, and you can't even use that space. You can't really have. I guess right now it's supposed to be a balcony, but I wouldn't having my kids go out on the balcony there at any point in time, because you could just fall out of the second story.
Okay, let me ask you, while you have this photo up, you don't intend to extend the rear of your property any further back than the 2 houses on either side of you. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So if you look at the home on this is a picture of the house on the right. So I wouldn't even this house actually extended all the way into the alley, as you can tell by the red brick structure there. But it won't even be that far out. It'll be just basically like it's gonna match basically the left and right side. Like the right side where this structure is slightly further onto the alley, but our house will be before that. It'll be a few feet before that structure. It'll be more in line with the this structure versus the one on the left, which you can see the siding. It'll be slightly forward from that, but not like it. You know what I mean? It's not like the house is going to be like taking out the whole entire lot, because there still needs to be some space to put the HVAC unit and things like that. So you know what I mean? It's going to be extended, but not extended all the way into the alley, obviously. Like, I don't even know how this house was okay, because this structure is literally like the structure itself is on the alleyway. So
Understood.
It's going to be before that, and that house is like right next to us. So this house is also like a couple doors down from us, and this structure also they built away the alley. This is like their first floor unit. And then you could see here, like you could see the house that's all the way at the end of that block. This is the same block that, like it's just a couple doors down from me. And they also extended all the way into the alley. And then they also have like a rooftop deck that's really high. And our house is going to be not even close to that. It's going to be way smaller than that, even. And this is literally like a couple doors down. So like you could see it like this. This is another view. This house, so our house is the one in the blue. The house on the red is the house to my right, and then the one with the siding on the left is the house that's left of me. So it's gonna be basically about the size of the house to the left of me.
Okay.
Which I feel is very
clear.
reasonable.
Okay.
You can see. So there's like another view of the alleyway.
I think we have it.
You have an idea? Okay. I just wanted to show you guys kind of like the layout of the street. Like I said, this house is over 100 years old. It's like 120 years old. I don't honestly even know when the last renovation was, because like it's extremely small. The layout is awkward, and in order for people with families to live there, it just needs more space. So I understand the neighbors' concern, and like I said, I am totally willing to write letters to all of them to, let them know that we are working on the house, and if they have issues, that they could always contact me. Then I'm available to discuss any concerns with them at any point in time.
Sure. Okay. Very well.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions from the board?
Yeah, Ms. No, do you expect to live in the house?
Yes, I would like to live in the house. But like I said, right now there's no way, because I have a few kids. I have parents. It's just too small.
So are you fixing it up to rent it?
I'm debating right now, because I want to live there, but I have to see how big of a house I can, I'm gonna be allowed to build. But if it's possible, I want to either live in there or not. If there's interest from potential renters, then I would like to rent to a family.
Understood. Okay. Any additional questions from the board?
No.
None from me.
No questions.
So we have at least two people who want to testify in, I believe, opposition. So give me 1 second. And if anybody else wants to testify who hasn't already messaged me, go ahead and raise your virtual hand. Here's the first person.
Thank you. Is everyone able to hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Good afternoon. Thanks for allowing me the opportunity to express my opposition and concern surrounding the 317 South Impera construction and proposed addition. My name is Mitchell Stamm, and I am the owner-occupant of 315, which is directly adjacent to 317 and shares a common party wall with them. I'm the red house, as you just heard mentioned.
Okay.
I've lived in my home for 5 years as of next week, actually, during which I've had to deal with a variety of issues caused by 317. And I wanted to add a little bit of context and backstory to some of Ms. No's comments. For the first 2.5 years, 317 was actually rented to a tenant that did not interact with anyone or care for the property. And during that time, the property was not properly registered as a rental property. And per State Department of the Environment, it did not have the required lead certifications during that time. And I stress that just to mention that, as you kind of heard when asked if she was lived there or not, these properties are in the name of an irrevocable trust, and they own about a dozen in Baltimore City under the trust name themselves. All rentals outside of, I assume, the one that Ms. No currently lives in. So after 2.5 years, which was about summer of 2018, the tenant in 317 moved out and the property became vacant. And sorry, I'm in a video. During this time, the weeds grew, dumping occurred, and there was just an overall deterioration of the property to the point of impacting my property due to failing electrical lines due to an improperly routed connection there. And a issue with the tarp that they had installed to hide the property's shortcomings, shredding and clogging up our sump drainage. The owners of the property showed up every once in a while when ECB would issue citations, and then left again without doing anything substantial outside of maybe pulling some weeds or cleaning some trash. For years, I actually pulled the weeds on this property. And directly counter to Ms. No's point about not having community input, Ms. No is not the person who represents themselves as the owner, just judging by her voice. There is an elderly couple that comes out, or an older couple that comes out and has purported themselves as the owners. So my only interactions have been with them. Up until this appeal, I've never heard of Ms. No in the context of this property otherwise. But at one point, that drainage issue became so bad that I actually sent a certified letter to the owners at their address per SDAT, which was actually out in California, asking for their assistance in rectifying the issue and offering to help with the local contractor, since they had told me one time that they lived in Los Angeles, one of the couple times I had met them. The letter eventually got returned to me, unclaimed. And since then, I also one time ran into the owners, gave them my number so that they could talk to me and contact me. They promised that they would send me a message or give me a call, so I had their cell phone numbers. Nothing ever happened. Eventually, the deterioration was significant enough with broken windows, and I have some pictures that I'll share at the conclusion of this, and unsecured doors that I asked the city for help. The city declared the building vacant and boarded it, which is what set the construction chain of events in motion, I believe, because they were getting citations at that point for having a vacant property. And since that point, the owners have refused to talk to neighbors in any detail about the project, who will be performing the work, the scope, which is why I think you find some of these opposition letters, and I believe another neighbor is going to testify to that point as well. So on the first point, I'm asking that the board doesn't grant the variance, lot coverage variance, as the property would actually dwarf the surrounding properties and significantly impact my ability to enjoy my property. The appeal states, and Ms. No stated that the extension is not as long as the other houses. However, the actual plans filed state that both the first floor and the second floor of 317 are going to be extended by at least 20 feet. And the pictures that she provided are fairly disingenuous, in my opinion. The surrounding houses, yes, go out to the alleyway, but only on the first floor. No house has an alleyway, or a second floor, excuse me, extension that goes out that same distance, which I have some pictures that show that a little better. The neighboring houses only have first floors, as I mentioned, going out. And I will show these pictures, and it will actually block my view. We have windows. My house was rehabbed in 0203. I have windows that were actually kind of in our shared sally port, which up until this point has been open. So that's going to significantly kind of impact my ability to have a view there, or sunlight and things of that nature. So I asked if the board doesn't grant this second floor extension as it's proposed currently, and ask that the owner scale back the second floor to a more reasonable size. I appreciate what was said, however, the plan showed differently, and that's my concern. And then additionally, I'd like the board to consider not allowing construction to occur at all until the owners enter into some sort of a MOU with the surrounding stakeholders and neighbors that details how the construction will be performed. During this demolition, no neighbors were warned or contacted. As Ms. No mentioned, no doors were knocked. And another neighbor, when it started, actually came out to discuss with them and see what was going on because it was so loud. And they basically did not want to talk about the project outside of, we don't know how long it's going to take. We just started. That's it. And additionally, this demo, I do not know the contractor situation. I know they do have one now. However, the owner couple that I referenced has been primarily doing the demo with one or two laborers. Maybe that's the construction professional. I'm not sure. They let, once they demoed it, they dumped all of the interior wood, siding, paint, everything into the back patio area and then left it there for 4 weeks. And during that time, dust accumulations, I understand dust. However, given that the state said there were no lead certifications, the State Department of the Environment says that the presumption of this property is that it has lead paint in it, given the age. So there was dust going everywhere, which it's really not dust, it's lead paint dust is the concern. I'm not sure the comment on children. There are 2 children that live directly across the street. There are another 2 children that live 3 or 4 doors up. And there's about another dozen children that actually live in the surrounding like block radius that play on our street. So that was a big concern. And additionally, due to the owner's refusal to properly perform this renovation so far, and I'll show they have fines for unpermitted construction in the past. It's not just now. They have tried this before and been cited before. We'd want to make sure it's basically performed by a licensed professional and give a detailed understanding of how our properties will be impacted. So that way we can make sure for damages, documentation, that there's adequate insurance coverage on this project. As again, I said, there is no individual here. It's in the name of an irrevocable trust. And there is no contact specifically listed on the permit, and I can, in good conscience, allow this work to perform until we've come to some sort of understanding and a more reasonable kind of, as I said, MOU. And additionally, the property actually has thousands of dollars in overdue fines and citations and unpaid overdue water bills. So I believe that the owners really should work to first rectify these existing issues and then engage with the neighbors who actually live on our block and propose a modest plan that keeps the charm of our small block. So thank you for your time. And I see if there's a way for me to share my screen. Just because I see Ms. comments.
Yeah, 1 second.
Ms. Co's comments there that I can address.
All right, you have share screen access.
Thank you. All right. All right, is everyone able to see the images?
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks. So I just wanted to kind of show a couple items here that I believe will kind of counter Ms. No's points. Again, Ms. No doesn't live on the block and does not generally show up, so I do not know who she is outside of the two individuals I've met. So this is 317 as it's been, when I say issues over the last 5 years. They've neglected this property as owners. The weeds are overgrown. There are broken windows and shattered windows that were letting in rain and creating mold issues and things of that nature. That window was broken for like legitimately a year. And here's a fun picture of a weed that grew to over 5 feet tall in the back of the property, just to counter that there was no citations. This is the tarp that actually ended up ripping and shredding and clogging up my drainage system, as you can see in the blue shreds down the sally port. There's rat burrows, failing, crumbling walls in the sally port. And as far as construction-related pictures, to document, this is actually them taking down before they had permits the doors, the boarded doors, and then, as people have mentioned, blocking the street. This is the demolition that was left outside. So when I say this was outside for 4 weeks, this is what I'm dealing with when they say that construction is being performed by a supervised professional. This is what I'm up against. And there were toilets sitting outside on that nice patio for actually longer than the other stuff. And this was after they started removing it a little bit. Nails, boards, etc. were left, empty beer cans, flake paint. And this, went on for, that stuff was out there for at least 3 or 4 weeks, and the toilets and stuff were beyond that. And
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Is any of that property encroaching onto your property? Any of that debris, any of that other than it being unsightly, is any of that impacting your property?
Outside of small flakes falling over, no. Just to show that we were dealing with rats and the method, I guess, or manner in which the construction thus far is already being done.
Okay, thank you.
And then actually the door to the property in the rear was left open over the last 2 weeks. And from my bathroom window, you can actually reach out with the selfie stick and see. So I was able to snap this picture. And you can see the gaps in the walls. And this is what they've done thus far. What looks to be mold. So those are the kind of issues we're really concerned about. But this is a better representation, I feel, of the property. As you see here, this is my property, the red brick. My first floor does not go out any farther than this other first floor on 319. And the fenced-in area roughly comes out of that patio to where those other houses were. So that's why when I say that both floors are being extended out beyond, this picture actually shows in detail kind of that this bump out's first floor. And I don't think, I can only speak for myself, but from those I've talked to, I don't think anyone has a problem with that. It's taking the entirety of the house 20 feet out to the alley overlooking this patio that there's concern about. And just to give the opposite angle, you can see again the white house that is pretty much equidistant with mine in terms of how far it goes out. And then this is just a better angle of the division of the sally port, and my windows that are again up here. And just to counter the concerns about 311 complaints, since I saw that and I knew that would happen, 62 311 service tickets pulled out of open data. And this is the current breakdown of fines for this property as it was shown in open data. So maybe I misread, but that $500 fine is a fine actually that was issued for unpermitted construction previously. So maybe those have been resolved and the system hasn't been updated. But that's what I am seeing, and that is why I am expressing concern, at least over that being done as the way it currently is. And I thank you for the time, and if there's any questions I can help to answer, please let me know.
Yeah, Mr. Tom?
Yes.
What's the background noise?
Muted.
Mr. Stom, did you say that the owners have a California address?
Yes. Per SDAT, the property is under the name of, I believe, the Emma and Elizabeth Petrovich Irrevocable Trust, which has an address in California, and that trust owns about a dozen properties in the area, which is why I do believe that it is generally intended to be a rental.
Playa Vista, California. It's on the front page of our staff report. The address and the name of the trust. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So again, I know Ms. Snow has stated that the property would not go out. However, the plans do not currently indicate that, at least as far as my relatively untrained eye, but I see both floors plan to be extended out to the same amount. So that was part of the concern. And then, as I said, just having a general understanding. It's very hard to talk to people when certified letters over the years got returned pre-COVID, pre-USPS issues, and, you know, not having someone there regularly. And you can see the antagonistic chat. This is what we're dealing with, unfortunately. So yeah.
Okay, I'm going to chime in just for 1 second for a just WebEx comment. Things that are said in the chat are not transcribed as part of the official record. So just letting everybody know that. Not to say everything you say in there is useless, but they're not part of the official record, and the board is focusing on listening, not the things in the chat. So just want to flag that for everybody. But you can use the chat to let me know you want to testify. On that note, there is somebody named Mr. Presley who also wants to testify in opposition.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Mr. Presley, you are unmuted.
Okay, I'm on the phone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Now, I'm testifying in opposition to case number 2020-172, the 1810 McCullough Street. And as other commissioners...
Hold on, sorry. So we are not on that case. We will call that case again at the end of the docket.
That's fine. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So is there anyone else on the line who would like to testify for 2020-176, 317 South Madera Street? If so, raise your virtual hand. Otherwise, I'm going to go through the call-in users. I see one hand raised for Chris Mastroniano. You are now unmuted, sir.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Excellent. Hey, thanks for getting my last name correct. That's 1 in 10, so I appreciate that. I think Mitch has handled, I was going to speak to a few items. I am an owner. I am directly across the street. I'm at 312, even though those numbers don't line up exactly. That's Madeira Street for you. Just one, I'm going to double down on one piece of evidence. I've been at this property for 5 years. And my second story window, I can see directly in, to the property being talked about here. I can say a couple things that over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, the maintenance on the property has been described in a manner consistent with Mitch from 315. From my own views, I have noticed just things like the weeds, and I've actually had to go and tie a shoelace to the front door from flapping in the wind, the screen door. And that's just kind of I wanted to just at least kind of give you my testimony with regards to the fact that he's correct in terms of the last 2 years of it being vacant. I can see through the front, windows that the second story, like there was just a desk kind of collecting dust in the middle there. And it just, to the description given already, I would like to second that. As a neighbor, and just speaking really briefly to a couple of other things, I'm very interested to, I think it's an important point with the second floor addition extension. I agree completely, and I would like this board hopefully to view that in light of, if I look at the back of my house, even though I'm not vested in the back of that house, we're all kind of very consistent. I think a consistency with how you interact with your neighbor is important. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out. I don't really have any other comments because I think that they've been made. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I'm going to see if there's anybody else. Again, if you want to testify for this case, 317 South Madera Street, please raise your hand. I see one more raised hand. Sorry. Christy, you are unmuted.
Hi, my name's Chrissy. I live at 310 South Madeira Street, right across from the property being discussed. Mitch did a great job covering a lot of the points. I just wanted to kind of emphasize what one of my biggest concerns is the safety. And this, I don't feel like is being handled by a licensed professional. I've only seen the elderly couple and one other gentleman there. And they're always leaving behind debris. And we have a lot of kids on our block who just love each other and they love to play outside. And I don't feel safe letting the kids play outside when they're doing construction. And then I just love our street. I love our block. All our neighbors are great. And everyone kind of invests into our block. And I just don't feel like this property is doing that. And they're not taking into consideration their neighbors. So I would hate for other properties to be impacted by their decisions. But like I said, I think Mitch did great. Chris brought up a lot of great points too. So I hope you take into consideration everything that's been said.
Ma'am, I don't see your last name. Christy.
Christy Hickson, Hickson.
Okay, Ms. Hickson, you've viewed the rear of this property in the past?
Have I seen the rear?
Yes.
No, I haven't. I haven't been back there. Mm-mm.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I do not see any other raised hands. So I'm going to go through the call-in users. Give me 1 second. There's only 2 more. So if you're a call-in user who wants to testify in this case, you're going to hear 2 beeps saying you're unmuted, and that will be your chance to do so.
I wasn't as prepared as Mitch, but I wrote a letter. I don't like public speaking.
Okay, that's the call-in users.
Okay, at this point, we'll turn it back over to Ms. No. You have the final word. If you'd like to speak to any of this opposition that you've heard, but I would like you to clarify what your relationship is to the property.
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I'm sorry that I've never met Mr. Dan, or I don't know exactly what his name is, but my neighbor to the right, the red house owner. But I'm Ida No, and actually my mom and my dad and my daughter we're all here. My mom, if she could say hello.
Hello.
Here.
What is your
Yeah.
mom's name?
My mom's name is Amy, A-M-Y. Last name is K-A-N-G. And she would like to make some. Is it possible that she could also make some comments regarding our neighbors' complaints?
Okay, let me ask you, what is your relationship to do you have a relationship to the owner of the property?
Yeah, I'm part of the trust.
Okay, part of the trust.
Yes, and actually, my daughter, who is Emma Petrovich, that my neighbor was talking about, she is here as well. She is an interested party. Would you like her name as well?
Okay, well, let me just ask you to go ahead and speak to the opposition or anything you think we should know, given
Sure.
what we've heard.
Okay, sure. So I'm not exactly sure why California is an issue, but we actually live in Baltimore, but we do have a house in California, and I do get mail in California. This is true, but I also live in Baltimore. I have a Baltimore's driver's license and Baltimore voter registration, if that's important. I actually never got the certified mail that my neighbor's talking about, but I now I know he does call the citation, the 301, a lot, and so I do come out to the property, and I have been at the property many times, but I think maybe our schedules just don't collide with each other or something, because I've never met him either. But in terms of the property having a tenant, the property had a tenant in there, an elderly couple, when we first bought the house, and we were not interested in just evicting them, so they did live at the property, and they were elderly, so they didn't maintain the exterior very well. So anytime we got complaints about trash or weed, we did go and take care of that. They moved out, I believe, in the summer of 2018 or so. And so from that point on, instead of trying to find other tenants, we realized that the house really needed to be rehabbed, because, like I said, the interior has not been rehabbed in like over 100 years. So it really does need work. And I understand the neighbors' complaints about construction, but we have a legitimate legal owner's permit, which the city allows. So, if that's something that he has a problem with, then that's something that he needs to really take up with the city about. Because in order for a permit to be issued, all citations have to be cleared. Otherwise, a permit won't issue. Legally, it's just not possible for that to happen. So all those citations that he's talking about weeds or trash and all that, that is all in the past. It is not something that is in the present. That is something that happened in the past and that we all cleared up in order for us to pull the right permits to rehab the house. So
Understood.
that's kind of a moot point here at this point in time. In terms of the debris, yes, there is debris, and we do put that in our backyard. And we're trying to clean that up as we go along. And if he visually, if that's something that bothers him, then I mean, I'm really sorry, but we don't like. I don't know exactly why he thinks we've let that sit for 4 weeks, because that's not something in any of our houses that we let debris of that amount sit for 4 weeks, because there's just no reason for us to do that. So we do try to clean it up as soon as the debris like exists, basically. But maybe there's like a lag time of a day or two, but it's not like 4 weeks. That's definitely exaggerated. The whole lot, to be honest with you, I believe is smaller than 20 feet or something. It's not a very big lot we're talking about. All of Madeira on that side, the lots are very small. We where his red brick building is, which is the first story, which I guess is just a one-story structure. We don't intend to build out extending all the way and have a two-story extending all the way to where that red brick structure is currently. So our intention is that we extend approximately to where his second story unit is, which is like maybe I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head, but like maybe like maybe 5-6 feet from where the red one-story structure is. So that is approximately the line that our drawing is as well, because we need some sort of a yard, like I said, so that people can put their trash bins there and whatnot. So it's not like our intention is to build the entire lot of the whole entire house. We want the second story to be, like I said, to match somewhat where his structure is. I can't promise that it's exactly, because I would have to look at his plot and put that with my plot, but it's within like a reasonable distance of that. And the structure in that corner of that street, which I had shown you guys the picture of, which is like the 2-story unit with the rooftop deck, that structure actually, that second story extends almost all the way into the alleyway. So I don't know why he thinks that a lot of those homes are just 1-story buildings, because all the buildings are 2-story. It is true that some of the second story structures don't extend all the way into the alley, but a lot of them do extend at least halfway into the lot, which is kind of like where our intention is. Let's see. I definitely, I have children, minor children. So it's not like we want to create an unsafe environment for the children on that block. So like I said, I would like to communicate with the neighbors there in terms of what their discontent is, in terms of like what they feel that the children are being, the children obviously cannot come onto the property at any point in time, but if their concern is the dust, I'm not exactly sure how we can minimize the dust level. But other than that, there's no like debris coming shooting out into the street or anything like that. Any debris that comes out of the house is debris that just goes strictly directly into the backyard. And like I said, maybe because I've never met this neighbor, my mom is actually right next to me as well, and she says that she has never met him either, so I'm not exactly sure. Maybe he's never introduced himself and said that I'm the neighbor directly to the right of you. But I have been on that house often. I walk there. Because we're residing on Montfort Street. It's only like a couple blocks away. I walk there all the time, and I walk there with my kids all the time. So I don't really know why I've never ran into him. But it's not my intention to like hide from him, and it's not that I live out in California and I only come here just because there's a hearing. It's not like that. Like, I'm a resident of Maryland, and I right now, like, I can't live on Madeira, but once the house is fixed up, do I have an intention to live there? I may. I mean, it depends on how big of a house we can build, because I have like 7 family members. We need more than one bathroom and we need more than one bedroom for us to live there. Do I intend to just rent it out? Possibly. I mean, I can't say that I will never rent out this house ever in my whole lifetime. I can't say that. Yes. And do we own other properties? Yes, we do own other properties. Do other people own more properties than us? Possibly. But just because we own properties doesn't mean that we have, we're only like landlords. No, we actually care about we care about the neighborhood, and I'm sorry that the neighbors maybe didn't get that from us because we haven't interacted. Unfortunately, around the time that we decided to go forward with this project, COVID did happen. So, like I said, we're not trying to like interact with a lot of people right now, face to face or even talk. And we are indoors most of the time because my parents are in their 60s. But what we want to do is we want to make the neighborhood better. We do want to rehab the house to make it a better, a better condition for that entire neighborhood as well. And I don't think that's a detriment in any aspect at all.
Okay, very well. Bill? You're muted, Bill. Bill, you're muted.
How do I get this off?
There you go. We can hear you now.
You got me? Has the house been tested for lead paint?
Yes. We have a lead certificate and the house was registered, but right now, I mean, it is vacant. It is still registered, but we don't have any tenants there, obviously.
Well, is that the dust issue that the neighbors keep referencing?
It's possible, but yeah, we do have a lead certificate on the house.
Isn't there a procedure for removing lead paint?
We have not removed any paint at all. All we've removed so far was just the interior drywall. But we haven't actually we haven't demoed the whole house or whatever. We've just removed some of the drywall.
Hey, I'm sounding unclear about this whole ownership thing. Do you own the house or are you a representative of the trust?
I'm a trustee. I'm a trustee.
And how many houses does the you or the trust own in Baltimore?
We own approximately 15.
And you rent all 15 of them?
We do not.
You do not?
No.
Well, how many of them do you rent?
Of the 15, we rent out, I think, approximately 9. We rent out 9.
Who lives in the other 6? Family members or what?
Yes, family members.
And they own the house?
No, the
Well, then
ownership
you're
is under
renting
the
the
trust.
house,
The ownership
right?
is under the trust.
And you're renting the house to relatives.
Yes.
So you're renting 15 houses.
Well, I mean, like I said, some of the homes we don't collect rent from. The ones that my family lives in, I do not collect rent from. So the 9 homes that I do rent to people, I do collect rent from.
Okay, thank you. I'm done.
I have a question for Mr. French. You can hear me. At least according to the packet that we have, this you just tell me how many feet will be left in them for a rear yard based on the document submitted by the appellant.
Wow. The only information I have is from what was provided from the system that we have access to.
Yes, sir.
The lot is 49 feet deep. Unfortunately, the copy of the floor plans that was scanned in has a gigantic swath of white blank out across the middle, which I suspect is not the fault of the applicant. And there is no legible dimension as far as the distance between the front wall and the proposed new rear wall of this property. So I'm not able to make a determination of that. They say the proposed rear setback would be 2 feet, but I can't verify that from looking at a floor plan, unfortunately.
If you look at, for the board members, if you look in your packets, the site plan, it's this sheet. That looks familiar. And it looks like this black square is the addition, and then it says there's this little gap here and it says 2. So I'm guessing that's the 2 feet they're referring to.
Okay.
Okay. All right, and Miss No,
yes.
Of course we've heard from your neighbor, at least looking at the rear of your property to the right, Mr. Stom. Have you, and I think you've answered it previously, but just confirm, have you received any communication, or more specifically, any objection from your neighbor to your left, or the neighbor
No.
to the
Yeah,
left.
no objection. I actually have the drawing in front of me as well, so I could kind of explain the drawing. Let's see.
Well, I really want to know just how far back the property is going to the rear. According to the drawings, there'll be a
Yes.
2 foot, it's 2 feet from the alley.
It is about, I believe it's 4 feet from the alley. Isn't it?
That's what I'm trying to confirm. Okay. In any event, that's both the first floor and the second floor will be extended out together.
Yes, that is is my neighbor on the right? He had actually a really good picture, better than the pictures that I provided, which show his unit better because his unit was more recently remodeled. And so like the red structure that you see, wait, hold on one sec. Can you do the sharing? I'm gonna try to do the sharing again.
Okay.
Hold on one second.
I have to turn it on. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Are you able to see?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. It is? Okay. Oh, are you guys able to see?
No.
No? Okay, wait, hold on. No.
What are you trying to show us?
Oh, I wanted to show you guys the extent that it would be. I'm not sure. I guess it's not working right now, but basically, if you guys can go by memory, the red structure on the right is approximately, I would say, like 6 feet in length, and it's about 6 feet away from the alleyway. So it will be kind of like maybe less than half. Our building would extend maybe slightly past our neighbor on the right, the red building structure, because his building, his 2-story building, is right about 6 feet before the red structure. So our proposed structure would be around approximately that that height, or what, it wouldn't go all the way. We have no intention
Mr. Chairman, I'm
building
sorry,
a-
but I have no idea what she's talking about.
Sorry. Can I step in for a moment? So whenever the board issues a resolution, it has to match the site plan that was submitted.
Yes.
So if you think it's more than the 2 feet on this site plan, then the board's gonna need new plans before we can issue a resolution.
Yeah, no, the site plan is accurate. So do you guys have the site plan, correct?
Yeah, and it only shows 2 feet.
So it's exactly according to the site plan that was submitted.
Okay.
Well, that's not what you told us.
Okay. We have that. Is there anything else you'd like to add at this point? I think we've heard quite a bit.
No.
All right. Anything further from the board?
No, I've heard enough.
Heard enough.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. No.
Thank
and
you.
we'll conclude this matter.
Thanks.
Moving on to the next matter. Case number 2020-177, 626 Mount Holly Street, Clayton Ballard. Used property is 2 dwelling units and a convenience store. Any report?
Yes, we have several opposition letters. I'm going to read those. Let me see. Let me make him a panelist first. Okay. So,
let us know who's sending, who the letter's from before you read it.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry about that. Okay, so the first one is actually, the first two letters were sent anonymously.
Unless they're anonymous.
It says, please be advised this letter is to oppose a permit for a store or business at 626 Mount Holly Street in the Edmondson Village community. My family owns a property near the location that is the subject of this permit. There are numerous stores located near 626 Mount Holly Street. These other stores are experiencing unnecessary residue such as shootings and even murders, as well as loitering and excessive littering. We have had to clean outside of our properties, especially on Allendale Street, because of the littering from some of those visiting the store on Allendale Street, and that is not signed. The next letter is also signed, anonymously submitted, and it states, this letter is being submitted to oppose a permit application for a corner store at location 66 Mount Holly Street. After years of this property sitting vacant, my neighbors and I discussed how we were elated to see the property fixed up and repaired. I commend Mr. Ballard for improving this property. However, a permit for another corner store is not advantageous for the community. The Baltimore City Police Department is very present on Edmondson Avenue, and as a result, individuals have moved illegal activities to this area of Mount Holly Street. There's been not only loitering, but drug dealing and fatal shootings in this area. There tends to be a lot of loitering around the corner, convenience or variety stores in the Edmondson Village community. There are enough stores located in this area. The cross street of Mount Holly is Harlem Avenue, and 3 or 4 blocks down Harlem is another corner store. Note that off of Harlem, the cross street is Allendale, where there is another corner store. And then on the next corner up on Edmondson Avenue, we find another corner store. I have no objections to the property being zoned as residential, but as far as being zoned for a business, I am opposed. The next letter is from St. Bernardine's Roman Catholic Church. It's from Reverend Bizzelli, who I believe is the pastor of that church. It states, on behalf of St. Bernardine Roman Catholic Church, I write to oppose the application for a permit to use the premises for 2 dwelling units and a convenience store. In recent years, our block has been troubled by groups of individuals loitering at the corners of Mount Holly Street at both Edmondson and Harlem. The larger group tends to congregate at Edmondson Ave, where there is already a convenience store across the street from the church on the northeast corner. These groups engage in disruptive behavior ranging from drug activity to parties well into the night. There have been multiple arrests made at these locations, and in the last year alone, 3 homicides have occurred, 2 in front of our church hall and 1 at Mike's Corner Store. There's no need for an additional convenience store within a block of the existing corner store, and the neighborhood cannot sustain the additional traffic, loitering, and potentially unlawful behavior that an additional store would engender. Attached to this is a petition with about 60 signatures so it's all the signatures, and then they give their address, and there's about 60 of those.
And what church is that?
The St. Bernardine's Roman Catholic Church on Edmondson Avenue.
Thank you.
It's the church is like right on it's on the same block as it's on the corner of Edmondson and Mount Holly. So it's like right down the street from this house, correct?
I know
exactly.
Where it is.
The next letter is also technically anonymous. It's anonymous. It says, respectfully submitted by a Harlem Avenue resident. It says, I'm not in favor of having yet another convenience store in my neighborhood, especially not at the end of my block. We already have several similar businesses within a 2-block radius, and each have been the site of multiple homicides. In addition to attracting violent crimes, the neighborhood will have a substantial increase in noise, traffic, and trash, in addition to other nuisances. Not only do I own a home near this property, but I worship at the church at the end of Mount Holly, St. Bernardine. It's the church we got the previous letter from. I've watched attendance decline over the past few years, and I truly believe the increase in violent crime is to blame. Please consider the needs of this community by rejecting this application. Enough people are profiting off of this neighborhood at the expense of our safety, right to quiet enjoyment, and our property values. The property was originally constructed for residential use, so why not use it that way? You could just as easily purpose that lower level as a 3rd unit, and doing so would not impact the neighborhood negatively. The next letter is from the Lyndhurst Community Association. It says, my name is Cynthia Shaw. As a homeowner in Edmondson Village and president of the Lyndhurst Community Association, I'm writing to object to the zoning appeal. And then she lists a few reasons. First is proximity to an existing convenience corner store on the same 600 block. Mike's Corner Store is located at the corner of Edmondson and Mount Holly. There's no need for two convenience corner stores, one at each end of the 600 block. Please note the other corner store's hours are 7 a.m. to midnight daily. 2, proximity to 4 other convenience stores in walking distance. And then she lists them. One's at 701 Leonard Street at Harlem, another at 700 Leonard Street at Harlem, one at 3624 Edmondson at Allendale, and then another at the 3900 block at Loudon Avenue. And she writes, please note the corner stores listed sell the same merchandise and provide the same service to the community. Number 3, increase in litter, loitering, and crime in the 600 block of Mount Holly Street and the 3800 block of Harlem Avenue. The corner store at Mount Holly in Edmondson has become a hangout for young people to gather and a destination for illegal drug-related activities. This has resulted in the shooting deaths of several young people. This nuisance activity has moved to Mount Holly Street and Harlem Ave, where there was also a shooting death and an increase in littering, loitering day and night. And then lastly, number 4, increase in neighborhood fear due to corner store nuisance environment. The existing corner stores have many of our neighbors living in fear, especially our senior residents. They fear being a victim of crime. They do not feel safe walking, shopping, or worshiping in this area. They do not want to live near this activity and in this environment. We do not need another corner store at the 600 block of Mount Holly Street. The next letter is from the Edgewood Neighborhood Association. It states, we're writing to support the community associations in opposing this location to be a variety or corner store. First and foremost, there's a corner store no less than 100 yards from this location. There have been guns, drugs, and death on this corner. This location has been a center for large crowds, illegal activity, and late evening disruption to the community. There have been sanitation issues around the properties and an increase in negative behavior developing in that area on that very corner. Sorry guys, there's like 4 more. So the next one is from the Southwest Neighborhood Community Development Corporation, and it states, we're asking that this location be a residential property to increase home ownership in the community. There's been murder and violence surrounding this location no less than 40 yards away. Next, from the Allendale Community Association, writes that they are in support of Edgewood Neighborhood Association's disapproval of this property owner. My community is adjacent to the Edgewood community and has been hit with unnecessary crime and other unpleasantries for many years. I find that all stores in our communities draw unwanted people that cause disturbances within the community. We do not need any more violence as it has caused so much death and disparity in our backyards. The community leaders in our neighborhood are working hard together to stay focused on cleaning up crime and creating a peaceful, pleasant, and clean community for our residents. We are in total opposition of this move and will continue to work together to keep undesirables out. The next letter is from the Edmondson Village Community Association, and they write, we do not feel it is in the best interest of our community to tolerate another corner store. Communities are already plagued with many corner and liquor stores who condone loitering. There's been gun violence, drugs, and murders on this corner stemming from excessive loitering that the store owners allow. This location is a center for large crowds, illegal activity, and late evening disruption. There are sanitation issues around the properties, and there are other stores in close proximity as well. Next is from someone named Ms. Chapman. She writes, I live a few doors down. The apartments I don't have a problem with, but the corner store I am absolutely against. There's already a corner store down the street and another store a block over at Allendale. I do not see the need for another one. I have on a few occasions seen drug deals. Then she writes reports of 2 recent murders on May 3rd and October 6th, 2020. She says, quite frankly, I should not have to keep calling 311 and 911 all the time. The space should be used for something that can help the community grow and get people off the street, not hanging around. And then our last letter is from Baltimore City Council, from Christopher Burnett, who's the council member for this area, writing that she'd like to formally oppose this application. Proximity to several other stores of the same type, including a corner store located less than a block away, and 4 others within a 1-mile radius. Ongoing nuisance property concerns, drug trafficking, community-based violence associated with 2 other stores in close proximity that will be exacerbated by the addition of this proposed establishment. And then she lists the 5 associations in opposition, all of which I read the letters from. And that's it from staff.
Okay, I think there's a consistent theme there. Mr. French?
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted, of course, it's two separate requests. One is for a conditional use approval for the store in the basement of the property. The other is to use the 2 floors above that as 2 separate dwelling units. The department notes that in order to authorize the 2 dwelling units, there would be a lot area variance of 24% required, and the department considers that extremely large in this area. Separately, a comment from our Community Planning and Revitalization Division. This property is 1 block north of the intersection of Edmondson Avenue and Mount Holly Street. It's a predominantly residential area. The Edmondson Village Area Master Plan, which covers this property, noted that a concentration of small convenience stores of the type proposed in this application has become associated with problems of loitering and violence in that part of the community. Community is also concerned about this particular location because it is along a primary walking route for students of the new Wildwood Elementary School, one of Baltimore's 21st century schools. For these reasons, the community is opposed to this application, which seeks to revive both a multifamily use that has been discontinued and a basement commercial use that has been discontinued. For these reasons, the Department of Planning recommends disapproval of the application, as the amount of lot area variance needed for approval is large in relation to the amount required by the zoning code, and because the proposed commercial use of the basement is not compatible with creating and maintaining a safe route to school for students walking to Wildwood Elementary School. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Mr. Ballard, are you there?
Just unmuted.
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Could you tell us about the project? And certainly need to hear from you regarding all of this tremendous opposition to the convenience store. Tell us what it is you had in mind.
Well, as you said, the application was for 2 dwelling units and a convenience store. And just to give a little history of the property was always 2 units, convenience store, for ever since back in 1960. So I wasn't trying to do anything different with the property that wasn't already there. The property was already set up with 3 meters. Since obtaining the property in June, I did completely rehab the property. The property has been vacant for over 20 years and an eyesore of the community. So I've had since rehabbed the property and has it to a point where it can be rented. Since met Miss Cynthia, who is one of the presidents of the Community Association, and she has given me the concerns of which they have. But the original intent was to put in a convenience store and to try to have all the safe stops as far as to maintain proper lighting, video cameras, making any videos accessible to law enforcement if needed. But after speaking with her and really feeling her heartfelt concern, I am willing to remove the request of the convenience store and would like to maintain the residential use of the property. It is not my intent to bring any crime to the neighborhood inadvertently. I am looking to uplift the community and provide a space for the community and provide a nice living space to the community. As said, the property is fully rehabbed. It has all mechanicals and fully electrical. All the plumbing is done. So I like to share my screen just to give you an idea of what's been done versus being setting for 20 years and just being a rundown property and an abandoned property to the community. I've since rehabbed the property and made it look better on that corner, and it is no longer a rundown property. It is still vacant because of just hearing and trying to get the actual power turn on, and that was the stop block into having the property sit. I do not want this to be another property sitting in the community as it was for many years. If you can share my screen, I'd just like to give you guys an idea of what's been done to the property and go from there.
Okay, so I gave you shared screen privileges, so you can do that on your end. But to address an administrative matter, are you requesting to amend your application?
Yes, I would like to amend my application. I'm not dead set on having a convenience store. And after having a conversation with Ms. Cynthia, I understand every concern that they have. I was raised on 608 Leonard Street. I understand the community, know the community. And I do understand there are some crimes in the community. And I would not want to be a party of actually inadvertently participating in any type of additional crime. My whole plan is to not have crime and have a safe Baltimore. And I choose not to be a part of anything that can promote that type of activity.
Okay, and to clarify, so you're amending it to use the premises as 2 dwelling units still?
Yes, 2 dwelling units still.
Okay, for the entire premises. All right. You can go ahead and do your share screen.
Can you guys see my screen?
Not yet.
No, sir.
Okay, hold on. Share. What about now?
Yes,
Yep.
we can see it now.
Yes, so as you see, this is the actual front of the property. The porch was to the point that it could fall on someone. You can see that the actual fencing in the area in the front yard has been completely torn down there. All the grass and debris there, and actually the porch where you can see where you have paint falling off and stuff happening there. And you see the after picture, which that has been rehabbed. Things have been brand new steps has been put in. A complete new fence has been put in. The yard has been maintained to actually remove a lot of that debris. One moment. It's blocking me from. Just 1 second. This is the basement of the actual property. This was completely gutted out and redone. You can see the ceramic tile flooring, you can see the new vinyl, as well as electrical.
Is that where the store would have been?
That was the original intent to actually put the store there.
Mm.
That was where the old store was placed many years ago. As a kid, I've actually walked down to that store.
Gotcha.
Here you can see how the property looked in the back, how it was pretty much run down, vegetation everywhere, pretty much into the point that it could fall on someone if anyone was around, not a safety for anyone. Here you can see where it's been rehabbed, brand new panel fencing in the back. It is now standing in support of new construction. The decks are in great working order and new roofing. This is the actual inside of the units. They are identical units. This you can see the electrical panel over there to the far left there. And you can see the actually hardwood flooring and new drywall, new framing and everything put up. This is just another look from a different side of the unit. But That said, I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what's been done to the property, and also let you know that I'm fully willing to amend my application and not go forth with the convenience store, and looking for approval for the units.
So do you plan to leave the basement vacant?
I have no original plan now for the basement, but that basement does have a meter. I can use that basement for either space, or it can be rented out as a daycare center. Something that can benefit the community. Nothing. I understand now the concern, and I understand anything that's dealing with retail would be an issue for the community and an issue of traffic. So anything like a community center rental or a daycare would be the only thing that I would be seeking, maybe something like that, but nothing as a retail space. But that basement is metered because the property originally had 3 meters, and that meter actually control all the lights on the outside of the property.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so anybody on the line who wants to testify in support or opposition, I do note, since the application has been amended, that does not include that convenience store. If council wants to testify, unmuting now. Hello?
Hello, this is Councilman Chris Burnett.
Good afternoon, Councilman.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Well, it's good news to hear the plans to amend the application. It was actually what I was signing on to say, was that I believe there would be support from the neighborhood for quality, affordable rental units in this area. It would be a welcome addition. I won't repeat my concerns laid out in the letter submitted to the board. And I'm absolutely willing to work with Mr. Ballard to come up with ideas or suggestions that I've heard from community members about needs that could be potentially filled with the basement unit. And so I did plan to talk about some of the concerns around retail or yet another corner store in that area, but it sounds like the applicant is willing to pull back on that, and I am in support of that. But my letter still stands. I think we have a credible amount of density of similar stores in that immediate area, and so it is encouraging to hear that Mr. Ballard did reach the community association, which is always recommended, to get their perspective. And I do want to applaud the work of the surrounding community associations that also weighed in support or in opposition of that proposal. And I would note that I think I'm losing some connection here. I would note that they have been working together to have a stronger vision for the Edmondson Avenue corridor and what those needs are. And so I would just encourage the applicant to work with not only Ms. Shaw, but the surrounding groups as well, to figure out what may be an impactful use and fill a need for the neighborhood. But I do want to also note that it is encouraging to see the photos for that property. I'm very familiar with the previous conditions, and so it is encouraging to see that much investment into affordable housing or rental housing in that community is much needed, and that was a blight on the community. So with that, I'll stop. And yeah, I'll hand it off to whoever's next, but did want to weigh in support of a rental, but in opposition to retail. Thank you.
Okay. Next we have, I can't see the last name, but I believe it's the Reverend of the church that's nearby. And you are unmuted, sir.
Good afternoon, members. I too just want to
express my gratitude at Mr. Ballard for being willing to amend his application. And as Councilman Burnett showed, the community is really working hard together, and I think that shows in the unity of the letters that we prepared. And just would offer my support from St. Bernardine's to work with Mr. Ballard in any way that will be helpful in making this a great addition to our neighborhood. So thank you, Mr. Ballard, for all you've put into the property, and thank you for being open to the community's views.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. If there's anybody else who wants to testify, raise your virtual hand. Otherwise, I'm going to go through the call-in users. Give me 1 second. Okay. You'll hear 2 beeps, which means you're unmuted. That's all the call-in users.
Okay, very well. Do we have any questions of Mr. Ballard at this point on the board?
Excuse me, I didn't hear you.
All right, Mr. Ballard? He's muted.
Sorry.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to your application at this time?
No, I don't think there's anything else. As I said, I would like to keep it residential, rental units. I'd like to thank the community for seeing the vision as for what I've done to the property, and appreciating that the willingness to forego the convenience store. I'd just like to add that definitely seeks the board consideration for this application. I've invested over $150,000 into this property, and I'd like to continue to move on with it and provide housing for families.
Very well. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your presentation. We'll take it up at the end of the docket. All right. We're going to move on to the next matter in the docket, which is case number 2020-180, 3500 Park Heights Avenue. Appellant is Trina Williams. This is a request to construct a new one-story single-family dwelling. We'll hear any staff and/or planning reports.
Nothing from staff.
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Wrench.
Give me 1 second. I'm looking for her.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Ms. Williams is unmuted.
Hello. Hi.
Good afternoon, Ms. Williams. Can you tell us about your project? You're seeking to construct a new one-story single-family home.
Yes. My name is Trina Williams. I'm just trying to build a small, under 600 square feet home, to bring up the neighborhood and for me and my new baby, who I'm pregnant with now. I'm just trying to build, like a little home for us here. And that's like my main thing that I'm trying to do.
I'm sorry, what was the size? What were the dimensions of the property in the build?
Would you say what are the?
How many square feet?
I believe 600 square feet.
1,000. Sorry, 6,000.
600.
600?
Yes.
Hold on. Yep, that makes more sense. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was looking at the staff report and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Sorry about that,
If you live in a
guys.
community of small 6,000 square foot homes, this will do, then, Okay. Okay. Square foot property.
James? James?
Yes, sir.
I got bounced out again. Which one are we on?
Okay, Bill, we're on the last one on the docket, 2020-180,
Thank you.
2500 Park Heights.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, Ms. Williams, I'm pulling up the packet for this particular application. In the materials, there's a photo. It looks like of a dwelling. Is that a home that's already there?
That's already existing is a
Yes,
shed
ma'am.
from, that's my garden shed for my garden.
Okay.
It's a shed.
Okay.
It's
And is
not a
that
home.
all
It
right?
just
Is the
looks
shed
like
going to
it.
stay?
Yeah. I was always told that I can build a home and have a shed in my back.
Okay. So the home would be to the right of that shed that's put in there.
Yeah, it'll be in the front.
Okay. On Park Heights. All right. Are there any questions from Ms. Williams from the board?
Sorry, there were two staff issues. One describing the fence and whether there's going to be parking.
Okay, let's discuss that.
Because there's a variance for one parking space, but it looks like there could be room for off-street parking.
Yeah, there is a lot of off-street parking around here.
Sorry. So no, off-street as in parking on your lot, like on your property, so you don't have to park on the street.
Oh, okay.
Is that so in this picture that we have with the shed, Miss Williams, it looks like there's a car there. Is there a paved or a graveled little parking pad area behind the shed?
That's gravel.
That's gravel, okay. And your house would be at the front, so the front would face Park Heights Avenue, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and the fencing that you're looking for, what type of, can you tell us about that?
Just because of the area in the community with, like, shootings and all and bad behavior, we wanted to build, like, because I'm having a child, I don't want him to be out there playing and things can happen to him. So I just wanted to put like a privacy fence around my property, like how I see at other homes.
Okay. You know how tall it's going to be?
Well, it would definitely be up to city code. I wouldn't go over city code. So wherever is the tallest it could be.
Okay.
And without a variance, that's that height, Ms. Nadeau, is what?
So it's 42 inches high in the front and corner side yards. That was the part that had been flagged on this, is making sure that in that front yard, it doesn't go up to the 6 feet.
So you saying it can go up to 6 feet?
Sorry, in the front and corner side yards, it can't be more than 42 inches, which I think is 3.5 feet. Is that math? Yes, 3.5 feet.
Okay.
In the rear yard, it can be higher, but in that front and in the front and the corner, it can't be higher than that.
Okay, the front and the front and then running along Hilldale.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it can't be more than 42. Okay.
Did planning have anything to say about this?
No, they did not at all. Are you talking to me? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
James?
Yeah, go ahead.
No
Mr.
comments,
Ford. I
Bill.
can't hear you. Yeah,
Oh,
he had
thank
no
you.
comment.
Because thank you.
I'm sorry, Bill. I forgot you couldn't.
I'm sorry. I thought you was talking
We're
to
able
me.
to hear him. Yeah, planning had no comment earlier.
Okay, just to clarify for the record, so the fence isn't going to be over the 42 inches in the front, and you are going to use that gravel space as parking, or no?
I mean, if I can, if I can't, then that's fine as well. But if I can, I would like to, just because of the safety of this neighborhood. It's too much things that happen around here, and I'm just pretty much scared for my safety. But if I can use it, then I really would love to.
Okay, so basically you're asking the board for a variance for one parking space and to have the fence be higher.
What would that put me into having to do if I ask for one parking space? What would I have to do to get that? Like,
Oh, okay. So backing up. So that is actually why you are in front of the board today, is because zoning saw this application and saw that the fence was higher and it needed parking. So they forwarded it to the board. So this board that you're in front of right now, if they so choose, based on your arguments and testimony, could decide that you can have that higher fence and not have that parking space. But so this would be how you ask for that.
well, I thought this was because they're telling me I have to be 20 feet back from the Hilldale side, which will leave me no space to build a home. This was the whole reason of this on the initial application for the
Side yard.
It was because they're telling me that I have to be 20 feet back on the Hilldale side, and that will leave me no space to build this. This is already a small house. It will leave me no space to even build.
Right. So we have that as well. So it's the variance into the yard. So it's the projecting into the yard and the fence and the parking. So all of those things are before this board right now.
Okay.
Because it looks like you're going to have 9 feet from the corner property line.
Okay. Yeah, then which leaves no space to build a home. 9 feet doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't, when I submitted the application, that was like my main thing, like saying I had to be 20 feet. And I'm like, and when I look at all these other homes around here, they're way closer than 20 feet. I mean, like this whole neighborhood, just about no one is 20 feet back. And I have like pictures of other homes too, like that's right on the side of me, that's across from me.
If I had to guess, I think you may not have an issue with regard to the side yard variance. Question though, we've told you what the permitted height of the fence is. Your application suggests that you'd like a privacy fence, which typically is about 6 feet in height. Are you seeking a higher fence around the perimeter of the property?
No. So you saying that on mine it's saying that I'm asking for a 6 feet or higher fence?
Well, it's no, the height was silent. It requested a privacy fence.
Okay.
And privacy fences often are 6 feet in height. So that's why it presents as a variance request required for fencing. So what I'd like to know is what size fence you're seeking to have around your property.
Okay. As was said to me, it cannot be higher than 42 inches high, which means 3.5 feet. I will go with that. I mean, if that's the highest it could be, then that's what I will have to do.
Ma'am, just so that I understand, you said that you were asking for a privacy fence due to crime in the area and just safety because you're having a new child, right?
I mean, I would like to have a fence, yes, due to I would like to have a fence
We understand you'd like to have a fence. The issue we're trying to confirm is what it is you're requesting of us. If you're requesting that the fence, you can request a higher fence than what is permitted. That's why you would be before us. We would have to approve that. We would have to approve a higher.
Okay,
height.
yes. Okay, so I would like to ask for a higher fence.
Okay.
Okay. And the reason, as I understand your testimony, is you're concerned about safety in the neighborhood. You have a young child on the way. There's a history of crime in the area.
Yes.
Okay.
And you feel better protected that way, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now the question becomes, how high? As I mentioned, privacy fences are typically 6 feet tall. Is that what you're seeking?
I'm believing like Home Depot sells fences like up to 5 foot high.
Yeah, trust me, folks can build a fence as high as you'd like. But we just want to know because we have to consider the request. I can't tell you what to ask for.
Like 5.5 feet high.
5.5 feet.
5.5. Is that what you said?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Unless there are no questions from the board, is there anything else you'd like to add to your application, ma'am, while we have you here?
No.
Okay.
There's a call-in user with a raised hand. I'm going to unmute them. Hello?
Hi, yes. I want to know, did the case
sorry, your name, please.
Sorry, hold on.
I'm sorry.
Are you testifying for the case we're on, 2021-80, 35 Park Heights?
No.
Okay. All right, so then we probably
Okay,
haven't called your case yet.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I think that's the only raised hand I see. And I will go through the rest of the call-in users. If you're calling in to testify, in this case, 2021-80 for 3500 Park Heights Avenue, you're going to hear 2 beeps. Go ahead and speak if you want to testify. If not, you may remain silent. Okay, that's everybody.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Williams, for your presentation. And we will take this up in our deliberations, and we'll have a decision today, okay?
Okay, do you know when I will get a decision? Like, what do I have to wait for?
You can stay on the line or stay logged in, and you may hear our decision in the deliberations in a little while once we finish the docket, okay?
Okay, thank you. I was just wondering how it went. Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
We'll certainly let you know. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Now we got to go back and pick up these other cases where we couldn't get the appellant. We had 2 cases with Mr. William Brodus. The case number is 2020-139 and 2020-140. It's available at this point.
For the record, by the way, everybody, Avery is still here. She's just called in. Her laptop died.
Great. So 2020-139 for 724 North Carrollton Avenue.
Okay, so I still do not see Mr. Broadus on the line. I'm going to go through the call-in users. If you are William Broadus or here for either 724 North Carrollton or 1100 West Lafayette, then please say so. Okay. I don't believe he is here.
All right, so these two are a no-show.
Yep.
All right, there's one other case we needed to recall, which is case number 2020-172, 1810 McCullough Street, Sybil Oskin.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you can.
Hello, I have listened the opposition letters, and my client is unfortunately abroad, and he had an injury, so he couldn't attend the meeting. But I will be attending as the project manager for the architectural firm. My client's intention is to.
Hold on.
Of course.
Who are you? What is your name?
My name is Sibel Oskan. I am architect for the project and project manager. And
Okay. All right, so you're listed as the appellant, at least the appellant's representative anyway.
Yes.
All right, so we've recalled the case 2020-172, 1810 McCullough. Do we have any staff or planning reports for this property?
Yes, so we had those opposition letters. Do you want me to read them again, Mr. Chair?
No.
Okay.
So we have the opposition letters. We have those in the record. Now, Mr. French, I'm sorry, could you grace us again with any comments that you have?
Okay, sure. Yeah, the planning department, in reviewing this application, noted that the board had granted a similar request back in 2009. At the time, that the zoning code included a 500 square feet of lot area per efficiency unit. That distinction was removed by the mayor and city council effective 2017. And therefore, these units, even though the application states they are efficiency units, are considered equivalent to one-bedroom units. And because of this change, the requirement now is 750 square feet of lot area per dwelling unit, which would require a 46% lot area variance in order for this application to be approved. The department considers that amount of lot area variance to be excessive. Separately, there is a requirement for one off-street parking space per dwelling unit. 2 can be provided in the rear yard with access from Stoddard Street, but this is obviously not enough to cover the total number needed for the number of units proposed. The department therefore recommends disapproval of the application because the variance requested and the amount of lot area variance needed for approval is excessive in relation to the amount required by the zoning code. Thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. French. Okay, Ms. Oskin, tell us about this particular project with particular reference to what planning had stated about the variance that's required, which they deem to be excessive.
I see that the new zoning ordinance have a different definition of an efficiency use, and in fact, the projects are at least 2 of the efficiency units looks like the a one-bedroom dwelling. So our application, as it is now, is 2 dwelling and 4 efficiency units per the new zoning definitions. However, we are ready to revise the drawings to meet the efficiency unit requirements, and we are open to your suggestions. The building before our appeal was listed for 6 dwelling units in the zoning. So if this appeal is declined, I was wondering what the owner is approved to do, because he's planning to live in this building, the top floor. He was intending for himself and provide quality, affordable rental units as a source of income. And majority of the buildings nearby, actually at 2 side buildings, are also multifamily dwelling. We are not asking for an additional parking space. This is a downtown space, many big cities. public transportation would be the main source of transportation for the users. But as I said, I'm interested in what instead we can use. Are we allowed to make a 6 dwelling as before? Or there's another zoning appeal from 2008, which allowed for 4 dwelling units. So we can definitely revise the drawings for efficiency units to meet 500 square feet. I saw the definition on the zoning ordinance, which was stating efficiency units as 500. It's not in the definitions, but under R8 or the block allowance, 500 square feet is a requirement for efficiency units, and we can provide that by modifying the drawing. And we can also amend the plans to be 2 dwelling and 4 efficiency units instead of 7 efficiency units.
You know, that's a lot of amendment.
I know, this wasn't, we have actually approached the planning department, and at the time it was 2019, and at the time our client was informed that it wouldn't be a big, he didn't expect any problems with 7 efficiency units because it was an approved appeal before. So this will be a surprise to him.
So I will start, and then I'm going to pass it to Martin, who I know will comment. The first issue is that the zoning code was changed in 2017. So if you met with planning before then, the requirements and definitions were a little different. But with that, I'm going to pass this off to Martin.
Right. I think it's important, Ms. Oskan, to know that the 500 square feet per efficiency unit standard no longer exists in the zoning code. An efficiency unit and a 1-bedroom unit are identical in the context of the current zoning code. There is no longer an efficiency unit definition for this purpose. Therefore, whether you create an efficiency unit or a 1-bedroom unit, you still must have 750 square feet of lot area to support that. And this particular property does not even come close to doing that for, quite frankly, 7 or even 6 units. You may need to discuss this further with the owner and revise the drawings considerably if you wish to pursue this as a multifamily dwelling.
Okay, so 6 units would stretch it, 5 units may be eligible.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think it's our, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I don't think it's our job to redesign.
No, it's not, and we're not going to recommend or suggest anything.
I see. Okay, so
hold on. What I'm going to suggest, because you're talking about amending various variations here, downsizing so that you can fit within an approval. We can't give you an approval until we know what it is you're seeking. So if you're intending to amend or and particularly provide new drawings, you need to see those. I'm sorry, my dog is speaking as well, so enough. If that's the case, then what I would suggest is, if you want to hold this particular application open, then you may want to postpone this matter, hold it open, however you want to do it, amend the drawings, amend your request, so that we know what it is we're seeking, for what you're seeking approval for. Right now, it's a bit scattered, and
because
trying to approve something that we don't really know what it is and we can't see it, because there are calculations that have to be made based on what changes you make. And so that's what I would suggest to you. Otherwise, we can go ahead and rule on the application as it is, which would have to wait 12 months and come back and do another one.
I think that's a wise suggestion. So we would like to do so. We can amend and postpone this. And we will like to resubmit our drawings for 750 square feet per unit.
Well, whatever size you intend. We'll see that when you resubmit.
Yes.
But for now, you're requesting a postponement, and we'll grant that postponement.
Yes, thank you.
Very well. Thank you. That concludes the docket for this session. We'll head to deliberations or discussion anyway.
Let me unmute Avery.